back.
Oh.
Okay.
You guys usually
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I lost the bunker.
No, you can hear us, right?
Oh, I can hear.
We lost their video.
Hello.
Can you hear? Can you see
There's no
Justin
video,
right,
Justin.
literally behind Jim?
Justin.
No.
Jesus.
Oh.
I only see it says bunker with
Bunker.
squiggly lines.
Squiggly lines.
Yeah, the broadcast bunker turned their video off.
Ah.
No.
I cannot turn it on for them. I can request they turn it on.
Well, we're denying your request, Alan.
Okay.
It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
We have launched.
You guys.
We have
We can hear.
launched.
We have launched.
We
We
can
can't see you guys.
I know.
See you.
It's because Alan has not requested the video.
We're doing
Oh, Ellen.
a new type of show.
Damn you, Alan.
So, Michael, take it away.
There we go.
Is it working okay?
Yes, everything's
It is.
good. It's all good.
All right, fantastic.
gravy.
We're starting.
All gravy.
We're starting. Welcome, everybody. Planet Green Trees, episode number 475. Today's 7/30/2020. Title of the show. I don't know how we settled on this, but when the lights turn on, we see right through you. No number of other great ideas coming there.
Dirty Dan.
So welcome, everybody. I think we should be broadcasting live on YouTube and on Facebook. And we have a lot of other great recordings and shows on those platforms if you want to go watch them and comment kindly. Tonight we a lot of content to get to and a lot of topics to discuss, and many from the last list that we didn't get to. But let me start by going through those purported topics we're going to address. By the time we get through them, they may have changed. But topics I may rant a little bit. There was this issue about this House Bill 6022, which was going to not eliminate, but require registration of caregivers in both residential and commercial. The white boy Rick, legendary case in the state of Michigan, and really a problem reflecting the worst of the drug wars, was released from prison. Ingham County Circuit Court is zooming trials, or beginning a pilot program. I saw Her Honor Judge Agrilla.
Ooh.
I don't
Start
like
commence that.
Did you see her in the Zoom room?
No, they're beginning to. Well, I'll tell you another story that an experience I had, because they're asking the judges, ironically, to submit possible plans of how this could take place. I was in a conference room with the judge. Steve was with me, and he showed us how he paced off 14 spots where they could have chairs in this room and still maintain social
Adhere
distancing.
to social distance.
Yeah, it was pretty
he showed
bizarre.
us,
This is what they're talking about.
I thought it was groups of 10.
Well, that just came about. This yesterday.
That didn't just come about. It's
No,
it's
she's
been
going
the
back to indoor 10 or less. That's just been
It was always indoor 10 or less.
What's the new order then? The one that goes into effect tomorrow.
Nobody knows.
The new order says that the casinos can open, so everybody can go gamble. Yay!
Also,
It eliminated
Well, we're rolling back on inside.
it eliminated any possibility of doing a jury trial because only 10 people could be in the room. There was not a limitation of 10 or less before that.
I'm pretty sure there was.
It's not. I was in a courtroom with 17 people.
I mean, no one was following it. That's the point.
Jim, I think this is the way the Dems.
No, the courts have to follow. The courts have to follow the order.
I could be wrong. There's been so many executive orders. It's been so difficult to keep up.
Takes us back.
also the unemployment package, care package ends tonight.
Yeah, not good.
Too.
We can talk about that. Okay, so the Dems Cannabis Caucus leaders vote against cannabis plank cannabis platform. That's been a topic of discussion on there. And cannabis and
Not
coffee.
good.
Cannabis and coffee. How do they affect each other? Is Jamie Lowell on?
Jamie likes his cannabis.
I just been curious there. Okay. So, of course, you're listening to Planet Green Trees, Michigan's #1 show about cannabis legal issues, licensing, regulation, compliance, medical marijuana topics, and current events. I'm your host, Michael Komorn. As we go around the room here, I want to introduce our talent and community entertainment. Running the board over there in creating his own Planet Green Trees bunker. Dirty Dan. Dandy.
Dirty Dan.
Goddamn Dirty Dan. Goddamn Dirty
All right, okay.
Dan.
He shall remain faceless. Moving around the room, we've got batting cleanup again this week. He had a great week last week. It's really promising during batting practice. He looks great in his uniform also. Please welcome Jim Powers.
Good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here.
Jimmy the Peppa.
It's good to see everybody. Got an exciting show with some pretty exciting topics. I definitely am interested to have the conversation about the Democrats and their platform and missing the legalization. So that'll be fun. Yeah.
They're missing a lot these days.
We'll get to that. Hold on. Jimmy Pepper, by the way, if anyone wants to play Pepper, which is a game associated with baseball, as he was introduced, you can call him. He'd be happy to get his fungo out. Funny. Baseball jokes. Moving around the room, we have Amanda Jocelyn from the Elevation Station and also from the world of Amanda Jocelyn, which is a quite interesting place. And she has her a lot of reporting content on a lot of topics, which you may want to check out as well. Please welcome right now Amanda Jocelyn.
Thank you, Michael. Looking forward to the show. Thank you all for tuning in. And we're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We certainly are. Moving around the room here, many of you may remember him from his wild tours in the 70s at Pine Knob and Joe Louis in the winter. He's got a catalog of music that is really hard to beat. Maybe you remember Fly Like an Eagle, Take the Money and Run.
Yeah.
The one and only Steve Miller's here with us. He's also retired police officer from Kent, Michigan, and the champion of all things here at Komorn Law. Please welcome him.
Thank you, Michael, and feel like the road warrior with you this week. We have been hitting the road for some serious court matters this week, and
I know
some of which I'm sure you'll talk about, but it's been, I feel like we've been out in the trenches, out in the front lines in the field. I've been with you there this week, and I loved it.
Kick an ass and take a name.
We kicked some ass, and we need to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that a little bit. It's weird. I know a lot of people, everyone's going through a different experience in terms of how the, getting back to normal, if it's even occurred, or the other, backpedaling from there. I was in court 3 places this week, and people were acting like it was not, not a big deal. Although
we were wearing masks everywhere.
You're right. In Flint, they were not playing around, and
no, not a bit.
And but in Warren, they don't care. No one has a mask on.
Yeah.
And then up north, no one's got a mask
Madness.
on.
It's just different.
It's totally different.
I know the facilities that I have to frequent as a result of my day job.
Well, I feel like
take it
Warren
very
this
seriously.
time was a lot better than last time.
Well, the judge doesn't have a mask. He's not going to see him.
Well, he was the only one that wasn't behind plexiglass this time. I think that's why they moved us.
Good point. All right, so we got everyone here. By the way, that is Alyssa McCormick, who is star lawyer at Komorn Law.
Absolutely.
And
Oh, thank you.
bringing organization to this introduction, which is normally never organized. I should say this week we had a case, and on Sunday night about 2:30, I sent her a memorandum of law that I wanted her to help me with. It was 70 pages.
81, actually.
Which she got down to 14 as angry texts were being sent. But it was fun. It was good. We got it all done.
Yes.
We got it all done.
Angry, loving, hate text.
Right, of course.
It was all included, but hey, we got it done. That's all that matters. And a fantastic outcome. That's all
Yes,
that matters.
that's true. It did have an impact. And I did have something to yell about in somebody's face because as I was holding it and pointing it at him. 14 pages. All right, so moving around the room here. We have also of counsel and barrister and trumpet player, also known as the Rasta Rabbi. He is not, even though he is the one and only Alan Peisner.
This guy right here.
Trumpet player.
AP. I didn't know about the trumpet either.
Pull out the trumpet.
Well,
Prove it. Come on.
all
You
right.
showed me your pool skills last time I was over. I didn't know about the trumpet skills.
Oh yeah, Allie. He used to give us a rousing performance before the appellate update, but
wait a minute.
not anymore.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here on the premier marijuana show, and it's sponsored by ComornLaw.com. If you ever have a medical marijuana need or any needs for criminal defense, that is the place to call, 800-656-3557. Thanks for sponsoring the show, Komorn Law. Okay, Mike, you can continue now.
I like your shirt, Alan.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Jeff's here.
Jeff is here. We were going to play around with Alan a little bit, but as long as Jeff popped on here. Jeff Frazier, of course, internationally renowned lawyer, now residing somewhere in the southwest-ish. As he meanders around.
Somewhere in Texas.
Somewhere in Texas. His hair's never been this short, but we'll take him any way we can get him. And please welcome my dear friend Jeff Frazier.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everybody. It's great to be somewhere.
Jeff, if you make it back up here.
That.
Okay. If you make it back up here, Steve, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I can give you a high and tight. I can finish your haircut. I can give you a high and tight with my new clippers.
Or set another one.
Going for the David Lynch look, racer.
Yeah, I've never seen your hair this short before, Jeff.
My hair was
getting too hot down there in Texas?
Yeah, it's a little warm.
I bet. It looks good. Good to see you.
For the safety of the public, I do want to announce if anyone sees Steve Miller coming at them with the clippers, they may want to run because he's very.
Yeah. They may want to fly like an eagle.
Give you the
I know one cut right now, and it's a high and tight, and that's about it.
When it comes to the clippers, Steve's no joker.
Right.
No.
Nor a smoker. We're a midnight toker.
All right, so Jamie Lowell is not here. He chose not to join with us tonight, which is fine. Did I see anybody?
I did send.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We've got everybody on here. All right, so got some topics to talk about, but I'm gonna tell a story about the cases. I mean, some people have heard it before. It's worth talking about, I think. But the real reason is because I had 2 remaining medical marijuana cases that were happening even after they legalized marijuana, and even after, based on the idea that it's Schedule 1. And despite those factors that are happening and have happened, these cases are still being prosecuted. So one of them came to a resolution this week. Steve was with me. It's one that has been fought. This is the one that
I'm still in disbelief.
81 pages and down to 14, was the last go through, and I'm still, it's like 12 boxes of just nonsense. But as that one wrapped up, surprisingly, I didn't think it was going to happen as it did. I thought we were actually
Never thought that case was going to end.
Me neither. And we are gonna have a special day for it, and we're gonna.
Yeah, I think we need to have him.
We will
on.
indeed. He's not feeling great.
Give him time.
If he's listening, we wish him well, but we will certainly get back to that. I told him and promised that he may have a special.
I just tried texting him to see if he'd listen in.
But he might be. But we've been promising him a special corner over there, the conservative corner.
Yes, he's getting it. Too.
Right. So that's after. So we've come to that, and that's one of the
conservative corner with Steve and Daryl.
Okay.
Hey, quick kicking the camera.
Okay. So that was going on, but as it goes, there still remains one case regarding medical marijuana. We are full on. We are back at it, and they started back.
Boom.
Started back up today from a time where there was a timeout in 2017. Okay. So what's interesting about it? It's out in the lovely St. Clair County. There's been many cases that have been generated from the Drug Task Force. Talked about many times on the show, and Jeff Frazier talking about it and making our case, Schuyler as well, and it's been kind of brutal, and it's been cases been the bad at times bad policing and bad drug task forces, not really just abusing patients and caregivers. I think it would go without saying, but that's what this still remains out there, and it's interesting because they there's a lot of bad actors, I would say, that really went out of their way to mess with patients and caregivers. They were always one of them, and it's just ironic that they would. That this case is still being fought, and they still are holding it in high regard, and very important for them to proceed. And they got to have their, and they won't just dismiss it or get rid of it. And it's faulty in 1,000 different ways, and it's abusive and forfeiture like so many other ones. So there's a lot more to fight about. But with all that being said, what I wanted to get to was that this case has been kicking around in St. Clair County, the district court. Circuit Court, the Circuit Court judge started up with me, I would say, when I was objecting to nonsense of introduction of evidence, and she told me I was being rude, and I moved to recuse her. And because the rude is not, like an objection has nothing to do with whether I'm polite or interrupting, because that's what it does.
Oh, my God.
And I don't have to be chivalrous when I do it.
I'm sure it's really charming when you ask these judges to recuse
Well, the point was that back then we fought about it. I told her, even though she said no, I was entitled to de novo review, which means I sent it to the chief judge. She told me I didn't know what I was talking about. We continued for a period of time in that period where there should have been some de novo review. And then when we came back after lunch, the prosecutor confirmed that we shouldn't go on anymore because of the status, which means all of that testimony that we had gotten through is really in question. But here's the thing. This case started there. They kicked it over to another judge who got the short straw. The forfeiture case is stayed while the criminal case goes forward, and it finally got dumped onto a judge's desk who is out there substituting. I mean, he's sitting as a visiting judge, I would say, as a retired judge, who ironically I had been before and is retired from Genesee County, and I was a participant in the first medical marijuana jury trial in the state at that time, and it was very, very uncharted territories. And it was a wild case. I'm going to talk about it because it kind of puts the two together in that he and I and the Macomb County prosecutor out there engaged in the first medical marijuana jury trial, and I'm predicting that this judge and myself are going to engage in the last medical marijuana jury trial in Michigan as well.
I think you're right.
Which is going to happen. But I want to just talk about how crazy it was at that time and how ridiculous it sounds and things took place now. But there's this beautiful legal event that takes place, which just is like karma, one might say, or just it's like how sweet. All right, so this is what happened. So the backdrop is that it's 2000 and I think, I don't know, 10, maybe, I don't know, 2012, 13, and very early on in the MMA. I think it was even earlier than that, but nevertheless, it is because this is unpublished orders 2013. I think it went back to be 2012, 2011. But nevertheless, my client, resident of Davison, Genesee County, drives into Oakland County to meet some patients that he wanted to interact with and see if they wanted to be signed up as his patients. He's a caregiver, and pulls into the parking lot in Clarkston of Mr.
B.
Somebody jumps into the car who they know, who's going to introduce, and they pull up somewhere, and sure enough, they get robbed at gunpoint. They take whatever medical cannabis they had and run off into a car and flee. My client chases them, sees the license plate, sees where they throw the guns, and of course reports it because he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. How many times did that happen to medical marijuana patients? Like, I just got reporting domestic violence. I see you're bleeding and bloody, but we smell.
Yep.
So he calls the police, and they show up there, and he tells them where the guns are. They get the guns, tells them where the people are. They get the people, and they later even get the marijuana back at some point. But they continue to interrogate my client in the parking lot there, and they learn that he's a caregiver, and now they want to get into his house and see what he's doing. So Oakland County gets their consent, allegedly, and they drive out to Davison, Michigan, and they raid his house and take his plants and his equipment and all of his things back to Oakland County and store it in the Oakland County net storage unit out there. So what Oakland County does, they charge him in Oakland County with the possession with intent to deliver marijuana to these folks that robbed him. And at the preliminary exam in Clarkston, I sat at the table, defense table, with my client and the people that robbed him. We were all co-defendants. An experience that seemed too bizarre to be real at the time. Nevertheless, that case got dismissed because they could never establish how much marijuana he had or what he's allowed to carry and what he's allowed to possess and then deliver, because he led them to it, but they could never establish how much there was at the exact time that he possessed it in terms of chain of custody. But the other case where they raided the house in Davison, Michigan, they charged him with multiple felonies, and we went to jury trial. And every single witness that testified in Genesee County was an Oakland County sheriff. The only Genesee County participant was the prosecutor's office. And it was wild because there was no distinction at the time between Section 4 and Section 8 as we know it today. And, of course, there was me yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs that the marijuana plants that were taken, that were hanging, were not dried at the time. It wasn't usable marijuana. And by the time they got it out for the trial and brought it, it was all, decomposed and whatnot. And I kept arguing about unusable marijuana, and we were going around and around on that. And the state finished its case. and I moved for a directed verdict saying that they did not establish prima facie evidence to get to the jury on any of the charges because the marijuana issue was not usable marijuana. And the judge granted my motion for directed verdict, which was insane, and we left the courthouse, and I remember having this argument with the prosecutor on the steps of the courthouse. He was telling me to come back in. He left, and the judge later issued an opinion which said something like this, where Section 4, because nobody knew what was going on. Section 4, Section 8, what's applied to a directed verdict? What's a Section 8 hearing? There was none of that. And the judge said, this statute clearly says that in order for someone to have immunity, patient engaged in the medical use, their volume limitation was not more than 2.5 ounces of usable marijuana and not more than 12 plants in an enclosed facility. The judge concluded that if you had one or the other in compliance, you were still in compliance. That in order to be outside of Section 4, the and, 2.5 and, meant that if you had 2.5 ounces, you could have 1 million plants.
Yeah.
Or if you had 1 million plants.
I like that. That's a good interpretation.
I love it.
So
like
this
that.
is
I thought it was great.
This is probably like 4 days after the Red and Clark case, and the before it even came up there, the Court of Appeals was ready to write its opinion. They're like, oh no, bring that up here. We're going to take care of that stuff.
Yeah.
So of course they reversed it in about 10 seconds. Now at the same time this was taking place, Michigan had another case, unrelated and unrelated issues, but about a directed verdict. And sure enough, it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the reason why it was U.S. Supreme Court is because nationally, the question about whether a directed verdict, a verdict by the judge saying that reasonable minds could not disagree on the facts of this case and they would all return a verdict of not guilty, is different in Michigan than a jury verdict which says you're not guilty. Because a jury verdict in Michigan up to this time was not appealable. A verdict by a judge, a directed verdict, was appealable, as this case that I'm speaking of was appealed and reversed. But that case was then appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court, my case, and the Michigan Supreme Court said, let's hold on and see what happens with this other Michigan case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court. And after that result, I'm going to read the on remand in this case, which is an unpublished opinion, October 1st, 2013. Remand, the prosecutor appeals as of right an order directing a verdict of acquittal. In an earlier unpublished opinion, we concluded the trial court erred in failing to let the case go forward on the basis of defendant's possession of more than 12 plants. People versus Pointer, unpublished opinion per curiam, Court of Appeals, October 11, 2012. Slip opinion at 3-4. In an order entered October 29, 2013, the Michigan Supreme Court, in lieu of granting leave, vacated our decision and remanded for reconsideration in light of Evans versus Michigan, Evans 3, 568 U.S. 133, Supreme Court 69. People versus Pointer, 493, Mich. 1967. We hold the United States Supreme Court reversal of the Michigan Supreme Court's decision in People versus Evans now compels the conclusion that retrial of a defendant in this case is barred by federal constitutional double jeopardy principles. Accordingly, we affirm the result in the trial court regardless of the merits of the decision to redirect the verdict of acquittal. The Fifth Amendment double jeopardy protections are deemed to apply to the states through operation of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, Benton v. Maryland. So there's a lot of constitutional stuff in there. You know that? Like there's all kinds of stuff flapping around there.
I love some Constitution.
But that all arose out of this case by which I find myself in front of this retired judge who's literally just trying to get a couple of days into work over at the courthouse, and he got dealt the nonsense that we have to deal with, which is going to be the last medical marijuana case in the state of Michigan. I would like to think the ones that were pending that are still going to.
Like I told you earlier, when I walk out of there, I at least feel like you and Mr. Linda are going to get a fair shake.
That's all we asked for. Yeah, asked for.
I think that you're going to get that now. You don't got the local yokel judge up there that's in bed with the prosecutor, and you know who knows what's going on up in that town. But we got the out-of-town judge now, and after witnessing him today, I feel like you're going to get a fair shot.
Listen, you know, there's this undercurrent that all these judges want to work. We got to work. This case is old, counsel. Got to get off my docket. We really want to move this case, counsel. Like, you know, and for why?
Like to put some pressure on you.
And I get it. You know, I get it. You know, he's got to justify. You know, he's a visiting judge, so they schedule something. But it is what it is.
You know what? He should turn around and tell them, you know what?
Yeah.
When I assure that this defendant has all his rights adhered to in this matter, we'll move that case along then. But until then, don't you worry about it. I'll manage my caseload. Thank you very much. What are they going to do to him?
Jeff Frazier.
Disbar him?
Nothing.
Jeff Frazier.
Nothing.
And Alan
Right.
and Ellie, the lawyers. Well, Jeff Frazier, first, you're in non-Michigan states. What is the you're in Texas? What happens if a judge directs a verdict or a verdict of acquittal? Is that appealable?
I think double jeopardy attaches.
In other words, there's no distinction, as Michigan used to do before the Evans case, that there's a distinction of some kind between a judicial verdict of acquittal and a jury verdict of acquittal.
I don't know that that's the case in Texas. I think that once the jury's impaneled,
yeah, jeopardy attaches. If the jury's impaneled, they've been sworn, jeopardy
Right,
attaches.
but in a bench trial, I thought it was after the first witness is sworn. And
True. But
Right.
the point is that after the acquittal by the judge, Michigan law allowed an appeal error. Okay? On that finding. So, and this opinion from Evans says, independent of the substantive error, anyway, we affirm the result in the trial court regardless of the merits of the decision to direct a verdict of acquittal. In other words, they're saying we can't do anything. In error verdict of acquittal is the equivalent now in Michigan to a jury verdict and cannot be retried via the double jeopardy.
As it shouldn't.
Alan, do you know any other states? I mean,
as it should.
as it should be. But
Right.
Michigan went on with this for a long time. In fact, big issue, Alan, I don't know if you remember this, but at a time, this is the way the practice of law, as I was growing up, used to be. Like, the cops would charge a defendant with, or the cops would charge him with, some drugs and guns. The lawyers would waive the jury, and the judges would find them guilty of the drugs and not the gun, because the gun's a mandatory too.
Yep.
It's like a slow plea, they used to call it. You know what I mean? Prosecutor didn't
It's
want to
an
bend on
easy
it.
decision for someone that thinks that they're going to do 2 years in prison.
Well, the judges don't like their hands tied and compelled to send anyone to prison. If they're going to do it, they want to do it. They don't want to be told they have to do it.
I
You know what
hear
mean?
you,
But it was just interesting. And now the prosecutors won't waive juries on that stuff. There was but at times so the other thing was a judge, if someone did a bench trial and found someone guilty of felony firearm alone without an underlying felony, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, for a long period of time, that verdict would be reversed. Because,
Correct.
yeah,
But a jury can do it.
a jury can do that, which makes no sense, right?
Right. But recently there's been another twist on that, which is in Wayne County, the judges were finding people guilty of felonious assault with a firearm, but not finding them guilty of the felony firearm accompanying that. And that has been reversed as an inconsistent verdict by the Court of Appeals.
Not after Evans.
About 15 years ago, they talked
Well, hold on.
about that.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't know if they handled this like... Let me take this back. This was a verdict of acquittal. This was not necessarily a bench trial. They may still reverse judges at trial. Alan.
Right.
This is just about directed verdicts as
Right,
opposed
I
to a
understand
bench
there's
trial.
a big difference. This
Yeah.
is when somebody's found guilty after a bench trial, felonious assault, but not guilty
Right.
of felony firearm.
It's an inconsistent verdict. It's like it'd be traditional. Like there's no way that those facts can relate to, it's an
Right.
impossible verdict. But it doesn't
Well, a
matter.
jury can do it,
Yes.
but a judge can't. Right.
It should only be if it hurts the defendant. You know what I mean? An acquittal
Right.
should still matter. I don't know if that's the case. That's a good project if we had nothing else to do to figure that out.
When the system came together, it was to favor the defendant in all ways, isn't it? It sure doesn't seem that way, at least since I've been working in this office.
That's a good question, Alan. Why don't you recite for us the actual history of the American justice system, starting with the founding fathers and their intention to have overcharging and 99.7%.
I don't think they
conviction rate.
wanted that.
I would be delighted to give a complete history, Michael, but I'd be remiss if I didn't welcome our latest guest here to the show, is Jamie Lowell, who's talking to us from on location, undisclosed location, but he's been kind enough to join us. Can you hear us, Jamie?
Jamie, what's happening?
Lansing, Michigan.
All right.
I thought I saw a certain
location
Ryan
is now disclosed.
Basor in the background.
What do you guys?
And I was
What are you guys doing?
just had dinner with Ryan Basor. Yep.
Well, that sounds good.
Yep. It doesn't live too far from here. And I had a day full of doing interviews for people for the botanical company retail store that's going to be opening in a few weeks here.
In Lansing?
Yeah. Yep. Same tomorrow. Full day of interviewing people tomorrow too.
Excellent.
So I'm staying. Yep.
You should have included me in on that process. I used to do that for the police department, Jamie. I have expertise in that area.
I'll be handling interviews myself on Saturday, so you're welcome to come up and join me.
All right. I might do it.
There's still time. You're welcome.
Just have to ask me if we can borrow you.
I was watching Michael in action, or listening to Michael in action on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had you guys linked in.
Yeah, quite awesome.
That was we've had a
That's Michael's favorite court, actually, in the entire state of Michigan.
I say we, but it's really Michael.
Really cool judge, obviously. Yes.
What happened, Jamie? Well, let me explain. First of all, so we had a case this week, and the way the courts are dealing with the closure of the courts and only letting so many people in is that they're broadcasting live on YouTube.
They go live.
You cannot record it. It will not record in.
No, they have a little sign that says "Don't record" or else. And there's actually
there was another attorney who was
yes
got a criminal sanctions for posting.
They dismissed it.
They did dismiss it, yes.
They did.
But he was originally charged, but yes, it was dismissed.
But probably not.
For taking pictures.
I was so tempted to record that broadcast yesterday. It would have been so easy.
Oh, don't say that, Alan. They'll just bar you.
Put your tape deck right up to the
If you were to post the link to the live feed, that wouldn't be, it's not against the rules.
No, you can.
What
can
if you put a tape deck up to the speaker and hit play and record with a cassette in there and recorded it that way?
I mean,
okay?
You violating the court rule.
Damn it.
Is it recording does a recording become a recording when it's recorded or when it's played for somebody else?
When it's recorded.
When it's recorded.
When there's
Any sort of, I would imagine any sort of play, anything like that.
It's the modern version of if a tree falls in the woods.
Right.
In any event, Michael was kicking ass yesterday in front of my favorite judge.
Yes, he was.
That is Alan's favorite judge, actually.
Michael has had an excellent week in court. I give him a AAA plus.
AAA.
Really do. He has been on his game.
I was just telling Michael he spends a lot of time in that courtroom. He went to that courtroom for me.
It's kind of obvious that he put down a lot of doubt about the accusations made by the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Why they think that's going to work in front of a jury at some point, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous case.
You know, it's interesting.
It is.
It's interesting. It goes back to what Steve was saying and Alan resisting getting into the history of American jurisprudence and how we got here. But this is a classic example of the bully of the prosecutor and the error of the ways of the investigation. And even though everybody knows that this particular case is flawed all over the place, and there's blatant evidence right in front of them showing what caused the death and that it wasn't the accused, they're ignoring it. And this whole thing erupted. And Steve, I think...
Did it violently erupt?
Well, I've been saying since the beginning, since we got the videos and the autopsy pictures, like that, once I started looking at him, like this, he was hit by a car. These kids did not cause his death. It was really obvious from mostly the autopsy pictures.
But they're not, nobody's
and the video recordings.
Okay, but Al, and I don't know, I don't want to get in too much depth yet because we're still kind of pending.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
But
I'm not going to name names.
Because I almost said something.
But generally speaking, nobody gave much credence. I mean,
High level.
What?
High level.
Keep it high level.
Right. I agree that
yes, absolutely.
That you look at a picture and say, wow, that looks like, but no professional says it. But what's interesting about the case and why it's such a lesson on how things can go sideways is that for reasons that I think it became clear, the target of the investigation of this was immediately focused on and tunnel visioned on something that occurred that had nothing to do with the event, and it was impossible for them to look any other way. Like they literally got lost in what their job is supposed to do. And if something like fell into their lap that they were not ready to look for, and actually, but as we're dealing with this, so the point of what I'm trying to say here is that these charges came about, things were said about it, swear-tos in front of the judge were made, charges were issued, and it was all premised on a couple of basic theories, such as the ME, the medical examiner, and/or some kind of, I guess the ME, the ME proving in some way that there's a cause of death that's criminal. And as we go forward in this case, there's no evidence, and the ME has changed their report, saying after they watched the videos that there's no causal link that he can say, and the police are mad at the ME. And
Yes.
and are taking a medical position contrary to his and trying to make their case through that.
Which they're allowing, but they aren't declaring him an expert over the ME. That was quite bizarre.
But I think
yeah, the OIC.
I would say that I'm at the point where, without getting into the details, there's such a lack of evidence. I almost think it borders on unethical that the prosecutor's still proceeding. And just because he is, the judge is taking it seriously. I mean, he's just going to do that anyways, and I think he knows.
Well, I think that's why he asked us to, brief certain topics and.
The judge is already see. The thing is that James.
I see. The thing is you and Mike, or you and Steve think, and Alan, I think, thinks that he already came up with his ruling. But I guess I'm just.
We'll see. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. I think he's.
I guess I'm just like stupidly hopeful.
Okay.
I agree with
Not stupidly.
Hold on.
I'm like stupidly hopeful that justice will prevail, even though I've seen how many times after working for your office for 2 years and 3 months, 4 months or so.
I didn't count it that exact, but okay. Just kidding.
It's pretty close.
And 3 hours.
What's your out date? What are you trying to say? Just kidding.
No. I remember that April this last year was my 2-year anniversary.
Which means she needs her 2-year review. Okay.
Keep going. Okay, keep going. So what happened?
No, it's like after working for you for like 2 years and X amount of months, it's like it seems what makes sense, like legal sense, reviewing case law, whatever. That's not always what happens, and that's the really unfortunate part of the legal system. It's like we have case law that says A, B, and C, but then the judge rules X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And it makes no legal sense. It makes zero sense, and it's just really unfortunate for everyone out there.
And what happens here, and this is why it goes the way that it goes. The police bring in a case, the prosecutors sign off on it, it goes to the exam. What is an exam? It's a probable cause conference. It should be meaningful. You should get a chance to cross-examine. The court should take into consideration the likelihood of this case resulting.
So are you saying it's not just checking the box?
It's a checking rubber stamp of the box, and there's almost a predisposition to bump it up to circuit court. Prosecutors know this. Once you get up to circuit court, then they want to get you into a deal. You don't want a trial on the charges or whatever. This is the game. And they do it time and time again. The reason they get away with it is because the district courts, they don't want to make a big decision. They're favorite. It's a question of fact, counsel. I'm not going to judge your credibility. You got a trial up in circuit court. And Jamie, I agree with.
Sorry, I to cut you off, Michael, but I feel like the district courts also think too that once you go to the circuit court or whatever, that you can appeal their decision, and it's like there's always somebody above them that can review their decision. So it's like there are no loss at their point. That's, I guess, how I feel to a certain extent too.
But here's the thing. Jamie's point that it seems like there's a lot of doubt there. I would agree. I would never make a prediction or,
I agree with Haley too. I thought that the judge gave you that case to look at as a way of giving him fuel to get rid of it.
Listen,
that's how I read it.
I remain optimistic. I remain optimistic as always, and I'm going to argue the case as if it's a blank slate. I'm just fine with that. But there was some. He gave some signs, like when he admitted the statements, when we were arguing there's no corpus delicti, and he said, well, obviously the assault, and we said, what assault? Because there's no testimony about an assault. That's what's about to happen. That's we're just going to try to come to the statements, and they have no connection.
High level. High level.
I should keep it a high level.
High level.
All right.
Very high level.
Is that what we're not doing?
That's what you're not doing.
What?
We're talking to Allie.
High
And for those that were listening, so it's like 4 people.
High level what?
level.
I don't know. Jamie understands what we're talking. It's me, Jamie, and Ellie, and Jeff a little bit, and Alan listened to, and Steve was there. So that's it. We're having a 4-way, 6-way.
Oh, I was gonna say because I thought he was talking about like the standard review and like district court for prelims. And like it's
The lowest
probable
level.
cause. That's like the lowest level. I'm not following what Jim's meaning by high level.
I mean that sometimes
the conversation
gets into too much
So
detail.
high level.
High level.
Okay.
In boardom, or are you worried about confidentiality stuff?
No, I'm worried about the fact that you have a pending.
Yeah, it's an active case. We
I got
probably
it.
shouldn't talk in such detail
We're talking
on
about-
the live air.
I'm pretty sure that it's already all in the news already.
It's in the
already
record.
been-
All that's in the record. We're just talking about okay. All right, fine. Right. Okay.
I mean, it's on YouTube.
So
Not anymore. It's not.
So
well,
Down.
it was all in the news before.
Jamie
The news
started.
people
Jamie
did
jumped.
before.
Jamie jumped off and threw that topic, and then Allie couldn't stop. That's fine. That's our excuse.
Sorry,
It's okay.
I'm very passionate about this case.
It has
so.
been. It's
Good.
Insane.
It's a good case to be passionate about.
Yeah, it is.
We
It
got
really is.
Not that I'm not passionate about every case, but just this one is
no. It's been. Yeah. It's.
nonsense.
All right. So let's move around here on the room here. So just to
Right,
get.
if we could just close thought on that other case, so that the district court has the duty to judge credibility at preliminary exam. That was just recently reaffirmed by the Michigan Supreme Court last year in People versus Anderson. And the district court can refuse to bind over if he doesn't believe.
Was that the case with Bruce Morrow? Went to Judge Morrow, I think, in the exam or something like that from the exam.
Yeah, it was denied bind over. No, I think it wasn't. As I recall, it was a female judge who refused to bind over in Anderson, but I can't remember her name.
If you sent it around, Alan, last year, I probably still have it saved in my email, and I'll be able to find it.
Yeah, I've got it right here at my.
I save all the cases that you send around, so.
All right, here we go. House Bill 6022. I understand this is the bill.
Yes.
It was read. It was introduced by Jamie. Why don't you tell who is the legislature that introduced this?
We got some documentation here.
Okay, where is that? Jim, why don't you enlighten us?
I would if I could find the documentation.
I also have some recent news that I saw through emails today about it.
It's been pulled.
It was just, yes, it was pulled.
It was pulled.
It was pulled because it was just killed.
Because Rick Thompson reached out.
That's right. Rick worked his magic.
He did.
And got the representative.
He wasn't taking any shit.
To cancel
Goodbye.
his bill.
Yep, he sure did. So way to go, Rick. I mean.
Thank you, Rick, for doing that.
Jamie had to have had something to do with it since he's responsible for everything. Good.
I think Jamie may have helped wordsmith.
One of many people who contacted the office and said that was a bad idea.
It's funny. I used to know more senators or representatives that were involved in some of these high-level decision-making regarding the MMA back in the day because they were so pronounced. They kind of formed a little group. We had, you could name who some of them were. Some of them were neutral. Some were just antagonists. And but this guy came out of nowhere, and we didn't really understand the motive or purpose for it. It sounded like an attempt to draw an interpretation from the DeRuiter case, which is the case that opened in some fashion the ability of the cities to potentially regulate caregiving. But this was a bill that was going to regulate it both commercial areas and also in residence, which I found to be quite beyond the scope. They would need, of course, 3/4 vote, but it's been pulled, and caregivers in 72 plants live on at least for now.
Yeah, we'll see. It's coming back around. Don't worry.
It will.
Because what could potentially happen, in order for that to happen, you would think that there would be a nothing done in the lame duck session.
Mm-hmm. This could still come back in lame duck. I mean,
is this a lame duck?
You think so?
They kind of like to slip stuff in, don't they?
He introduced it and pulled it really quickly. I feel like though.
Yeah, because he didn't get any co-sponsors.
So do you think he'll try to pull it again?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the point is, anytime legislation is being passed, you got to ask, okay, what's the motive
for the legislation to be passed, and usually what that translates into is who's lobbying for this.
And if it doesn't get through,
you have to be concerned.
Yep.
Sorry,
yes,
go ahead, Michael.
it means there's people that want to have this done. They've put enough money to get a lobbyist that they can get a bill introduced, and it means that it's probably on the back burner and could be brought up in lame duck. Lame duck is the period of time after the election on November the 8th or whatever, until the January 1st, when that's the period of time where they remain in office, really till like the end of December, where their term ends, and then they leave office. But it's after the election, so they're leaving office. There's someone coming in January, and they pass all these laws between in January.
It is a total shit show.
They like to just slip
because they're not accountable. They pass it and they leave, and they don't have to get reelected. They moved on to other stuff. They're working for a company or a pharmaceutical company at that point.
Yep.
Like, by Felicia almost.
Exactly.
So that's the concern if it's being spoken about.
Love that you picked up on that, Amanda.
They've played this wrong consistently. Jamie, so it's been pulled. That's what we know, right? So do we need to take a break? What should we do? Should we take a break, play some music or something? Come back and talk about it. So Jeff, we have a topic or two ready to hum some harmonica?
Strum
all right,
up
good.
some stuff.
All right, we'll have that going. You'll listen to Planet Green Trees, and it's episode number 475. And we'll be right back.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Tree, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, It has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming and processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry. So come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided, and the support was enormous, the fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show. This is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and international and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 120th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Michael Komorn with more. The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting into farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
For those that are listening, we're going to continue on with our list here. There's a lot of other topics we can get into, but White Boy Rick, what's his real name?
Rick Wersch.
Rick Wersch, that's right. He was released from prison after being sentenced for a very long time on the, this is the period of time in the 90s when there was the mandatory minimums on the over 650. There's always a lot of interest in this story, and I'm not going to try to speak to it of any, expert in any way, but I'm aware of many of the assertions and allegations of things that went on, and
the what ifs and.
Well, there's an issue of whether he was a confidential informant.
That's not an issue. He was.
Well,
at age 15 or something, right?
And the fact that he was in a. There's some things that went on with the Detroit police chief at the time. I think Gil Hill, who later was made famous in the Beverly Hills Cop. He was somehow
the heat is on
involved with that, and as it's been alleged. But I understand there's a movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yes,
It's a really good movie.
It is.
Matthew McConaughey stars as.
Wait, it's already over?
It's been out for what, a year or two.
Okay, good. Okay, very good.
I've missed that for a whole year.
Yeah.
All right, and then
you got to watch it. I want a review from you.
But his release was just recently, if I understand that. Jim, is that right?
Yeah, it was yesterday or the day before. Or it just happened this week.
Just happened this past week. I happened to see it because I know that the.
I'll watch him any day.
All right.
Well, there's a whole other conversation.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's funny. Who are we talking about?
We were talking about
White Boy Rick.
White Boy
You're
Rick.
talking about Matthew McConaughey. Just
he's just.
Okay.
There's something about him,
There you
know.
go. Of course.
He's kind of like a Liam Neeson or a Gerard Butler for me. The timeless.
Yeah, the ladies seem to like him. The ladies seem to like him.
You know, his
the
story
distinguished gents
brings to mind. I went and testified in Lansing last October in regards to the expungement bills, and I ran into a couple of gentlemen from organizations trying to help young men getting out of prison and reaccustomed to life, helping men get out of prison that shouldn't be there. And they are from Nation Outside, Jackson Chapter, Antoinese Gant, and West Michigan Olive Tree, Jarrett Ruffin. And these guys do this work trying to help guys and the reason it brings this to mind is because a lot of the guys they work with that are in prisons are in there as a result of that war on crack that put Rick Wershey into prison all these years. I mean, he spent his entire adult life
he was a child.
you
prison
imagine that?
for dealing crack.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
And
conspiring
with
years.
Right, and
All
conspiring.
of this technology that has taken place since the time he's gone in to the time it is now, he is like coming out of this in just a complete and total, just awe. I'm sure he's just. It's going to take him a long time to adjust.
I've heard interviews with people that have gone through that same kind of thing. You're in for 20 years, you miss a lot. There's a lot that's gone in the last 20 years more than any other period of 20
I can imagine,
years.
yeah.
You know, just in terms of the way we live, with amount of information, you know, where we're spending our time, it doesn't make sense.
Just imagine the change in technology.
Yeah.
Over 20 years.
The internet and stuff. And then also you go from such a structured everyday regimen, okay? You're up at 6 o'clock, you eat it, whatever. Your day is completely and totally structured from start to finish for 20 some odd years. And then all of a sudden, boom, there you are.
You can imagine it's a shock.
It's more than that, too, because I think you actually have to live in a mindset that is not normal, you know, in order to adapt. Like going to prison doesn't, makes you potentially more violent. You know what I mean?
Normal.
And living in a violent...
So I can't imagine.
It's not.
These guys I met with at the hearings that day, they said one thing that struck me about a lot of these young men who got caught up in that war on crack back in the 80s. And they said we currently have a lot of brilliant young men, or brilliant men now, they're all middle-aged, brilliant men locked up in prison.
Sure, they could have run...
And I said, I believe you, and I think it's just a shame. And they appreciated my testimony that day and thanked me for that. And I appreciated my talk with them because it really hits home a little bit when you talk to these guys and just hear their stories and the people they deal with. And yes, I am certain there is a lot of brilliant men currently.
Do you think anyone comes out of the womb and says, "I want to be a crack dealer"?
No, of course not.
You know what I mean? Like I think you have someone that has the desire. They have the desire to want to work.
Right.
And in the neighborhood that they live in,
right.
From the second they've been walking around, they don't see anyone. They see a lot of it's a cycle of.
It's like any other thing. There's a demand, and it's being filled. It's an opportunity to make money, and when you're not given other opportunities, what are you supposed to do?
That's all you know.
You have two choices. You have the choice to do that, or you have the choice to go hungry or potentially sleep on the street, and that's a real thing. There are many, many people who have gone through life with absolutely zero support.
And that's
listen. Just to keep it balanced here, because I do think that I do firmly believe a lot of that. I do also think that there's probably some deference given to that, and I myself would give deference to it because we're talking about groups and populations that are disproportionately effectuated by the criminal justice system, both for minority base and also for socioeconomic base. We discussed this a little bit, me and Steve did today. So it's a real thing, and it is devastated communities when you have generation after generation being tied up in the system, whether it be arrested, felonized, not working, not having voting rights. It has a tendency, and it creates violence. This is the war on drugs at its very, very worst. And there's no answer. Like it's not, and the people that we're talking about here, the smart people in prison, are they took advantage of something that was immediately available to them because something else may not have been, and they were probably good at it for a certain period of time. But if you just took their will to want to work and make a living,
right?
And gave them a similar like opportunity where they could have some autonomy in what they're doing. You know, what I mean, have meaning.
Channel it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like I don't know that any, you know, it's really.
I think most people want to work and earn their way and just live on good.
It's unfortunate.
And it's when people get knocked down to nothing where they
get
desperate and turn to crime and hurting other people. And
I think that's the point. Like, there's so much work and effort that goes into trying to be a good crack dealer. You know what I mean? So much effort, energy, so much risk that's involved. Some people do it for a while. Some people get caught. Some people don't get caught. But, you know, this always ends up some kind of bad end result. But if anyone gave that much thought and attention to anything, you know, it's like kind of really being focused on.
It's all about the opportunities that present themselves.
But I'm saying that the skill set exists for all, anyone,
sure
and that's the point I think Steve's making, that there's a lot of, you know.
I think we're all born brilliant.
Entrepreneurs that were probably targeted in the wrong direction, maybe could have been pointed in a different direction, but their entrepreneurship ended up in this particular industry.
There's no pointing though.
They got in trouble.
Yeah.
But there's no other real, you know, I mean, you know, the environment that you grow up in has a lot of impact on.
It certainly does.
How you look at yourself.
Huge.
How you view your potential.
I think there's a movie on Netflix called Nature versus Nurture, in which twin boys were separated at birth, and one went with a low socioeconomic, and the other one went with a upper socioeconomic family. And I haven't watched it yet.
So you don't have an answer for that? Jeff Frazier, who has twins, what do you say? Triplets.
Yeah, that's
He's got a lot of the same looking.
That's a great question.
Like genetic stuff.
Well, they were raised
revolving around
raised in the same
what
environment.
Do you say? Nature versus nurture.
I tell you what, a lot of it's just code, man. People, we come out programmed to learn languages. We can learn as many languages as we're exposed to as an infant. We come out smart.
Yeah.
You know,
we're born that way.
You know, do no harm. No harm.
Right. That's the point. Like, and the environment by which someone that's nurtured and develops impacts all of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There may even be I mean, you know, when there's, you know, when it's not being nurtured, it's not being developed properly. And, you know, there's other...
Like Jim said, the opportunities that present themselves.
It's, what's popping around in my head, and years ago I used to do work for a charter school in the inner city, and it was the end of the school year, and I sat down with the principal, and we were talking about all these laptops that turned up missing. And it's a common occurrence. What would happen is the school...
What turned up missing? Sorry.
The students' laptops.
Okay.
So what was explained to me is this happens every year. There's a percentage that just the laptops don't come back, and it was a high percentage. And, you know, I was a young man at the time. I was in my early 20s, and of course I said, well, why don't you do something about it? Like, these people are stealing the property of the school. You know, why don't you do something to try and recover it? And he looked me dead in the eye and said, Jim, there's no way that I'm going to pursue something like criminal charges against a parent that needs to decide whether they're going to feed their family that night or not. Right. And it's regardless of whether it's because of a drug problem or just lack of job opportunity or what it is. At the end of the day, those are the types of decisions people have to make, and the drug war compounds it so many times. And all it does is take people that are already stricken in poverty and make it 10 times worse.
Kicks them to the ground.
It also develops a huge reliance on government services. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that if there's not viable income coming to the house, you got to get government services. There's a reliance on that. It does not. It does not develop itself into
government services that don't seem to help people out. It's like government services that want to keep people there.
How about that topic? We can talk about in terms of government services. We've got the renewal or discussion. I don't think anything passed of the CARES Act or the whatever.
Nothing is passed.
Jeff, what do you think about this? You know, I heard that one of the bends. This is by the commander-in-chief. He said one of the problems that they can't agree about is that he's insisting that there be some qualified or absolute immunity for employers that demand their employees come back or get fired. And this is an interesting topic. I'll tell you this little story here. Me and Steve talked about this. We were driving over the place today. For example, like if you say, Smokey, you got to come back to work.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And the concern would be that are they subject to, if someone gets sick, God forbid, a lawsuit or something. I understand that one of the bends from the Republicans was that they wanted to have this immunity
for employers,
so no matter what happened. I did hear our Commander-in-Chief say they need immunity just like the police need immunity. So I don't know that he's looking to either defund or remove qualified immunity. It would seem that he's...
Well, I think what I don't think that a whole lot of changes have to be made. And I mean, you guys...
The police reform issue?
No, the police reform issue is a different issue. I'm talking about the COVID-19 immunity issue.
Yeah.
And I think as long as employers do everything in their power to protect their people and take appropriate safeguards.
Well, they would have to follow the protocol and have those steps in place.
Right. And as long as that occurs, then, there shouldn't be any liability. It would just be like, well,
the problem is how do you prove causation, number one?
Right.
There's not enough viable ways to actually establish that probably, right? Because someone could be a carrier, not know. Get it?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now I'll tell you. So that scenario is but I could see where a person who may feel like they have a compromised immune system not want to disclose it because it's kind of a personal HIPAA-related thing. They're asked to come back to work. They don't want to. They lose their job, or they feel compelled to go back to work and actually suffer. And that dilemma happens. That's the worst. You can think of the worst-case scenario. Here's something else. Think about it outside of that.
But I mean, if you flip it for a minute, and you say, okay, you have a business owner that needs to open their business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of employers, I shouldn't say I think, I know because I'm living it, that have done a tremendous job of allowing for remote work.
Of course.
And now there's this hybrid mode.
Myself included.
Yeah, where people are sometimes in the office, sometimes at home. I think it's working out well for most. But there are businesses that require people to be on site.
Right.
And I feel bad for the folks that may have compromised immune systems. My son has a compromised immune system, and
but even despite that, you're saying having someone personal, you're saying you're not gonna.
What's supposed to happen? Are they just
right.
supposed to hold that position open?
Right. No,
perpetually?
I understand.
And that would be the question: is what's the reasonable length of time?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, the role has to be filled because the business, I assume, needs that role occupied in order for it to operate.
Well, what if you have a place that's got 15 people inside and you're able to, up until tomorrow work with your 15 employees, and often you can only have 10 in there without anyone else, or you can only have 7. I got to get rid of a bunch of people.
You got to be safe, and even though I think there's a lot of debate around the executive orders themselves and the content, I think that the governor did do a good job of being very explicit about the demands on the workplace and on the safeguards that
there's
should
been many
be put in
places
place.
I've walked into that I say, make sure your mask is on. Get that over your nose.
Yep, I know.
But it's fine. I get it. I have a mask with me.
Yeah,
I wear a mask
honestly,
when I go into places.
even if I don't agree with all of it, what I do appreciate is that it's explicit, because it makes it a lot easier for people.
Right,
to
the
deal
consistency of it matters. You know what I mean?
Consistency does.
That's my problem. To different courts where half the time nobody cares.
Sure.
And I don't.
If it bothers you that bad,
I'm sitting,
you should file a complaint.
From 8 feet away from everybody, I may take my mask off to talk instead of having the mask on. I was very. In fact, we objected today. This is some funny stuff. We objected today that we couldn't see the mouth of the witness, but on behalf of my client, because he was wearing a mask. They then moved him into the jury box and let him take off his mask. And then they asked the witness to identify the defense. He goes, "The person sitting in the back wearing a mask."
Wearing a
I was like, that's the funniest thing. ID the witness, the guy wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's the one wearing a mask.
I mean, it was really. We are in strange, bizarro times. It was
something else.
It was.
Oh, it's good times. It was a good week on the road.
It was.
Well, I hear that we're doing a tubing trip coming up pretty soon here.
Dirty Dan's Dirty Rafting?
Yeah, Dirty Dan's Dirty Rafting, kind touring.
Tubes
and,
down the dirty river.
I believe the date is the 11th, the 12th of August. And we are going to be heading up via very comfortable reclining seats, party bus. Or something like that. We'll release more details.
A fun bus?
Yeah,
A fun bus.
A fun bus.
A fun bus.
And we're also going to release some information as to how people can get involved in that.
Dirty Dan's Dirty Bus.
Dirty Bus.
It's the Dirty Bus.
All right.
Down and Dirty Bus.
Well, with that, we're going to quickly take another break, I think.
But no dirty butts on the tubing.
Yeah.
No butts, no dirty butts.
No dirty butts.
By the way, whatever we're talking about is probably going to be kid-friendly, so don't let all the dirty
Absolutely
talk.
kid-friendly, so we're
make it
not
seem like
blazing
it's
all
not
over the
just
place. This
some
is
weird
family
That's why we're
friendly.
not allowing dirty butts.
Yes.
So you're listening to Planet Green Trees. We'll be right back.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2020 Digital Hash Bash broadcast, hosted by Jamie Lowell. Jamie, you're out there, aren't you?
I'm here, hosted by all of us. I'm not taking all the credit, that's for sure.
Nope. A whole big gang of us. I'd like to introduce our next guest speaker here. BDT Smoke Shop opened in 1973. They're the #1 head shop in the Southeast Michigan for more than a dozen years. This gentleman is the face of BDT Smoke Shop, but he's so much more, and I hope he gets a chance to explain that. Let me introduce Mr. Curtis Gore.
I hear a bit of an echo.
Hey, Curtis.
Locked up. My intro was so good, he didn't feel the need to stay around to say anything. Awesome!
No, unfortunately, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes, we can, Curtis. Yay! Thank you.
Oh, boy. Poor internet
There he
connection,
is.
I think.
All right.
Just as we thought things were going well.
You're doing great.
You in
We
the
can see you
background.
and hear.
I could hear the intro.
We can hear you and see you. Keep going.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to be on our first ever virtual Hash Bash over Skype. This has been fantastic. I think it's time to have a little fun. Can you still see me?
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
We got something big going on in the background here. Kind of chilling things out here at the Hazel Park BDTs. Well, it's obviously been a tough time for all of us. But we're going to do our best getting through.
You know, Curtis, it's difficult to know what is an essential service and what isn't. How's BDTs doing with this whole situation? Are you an essential service? Are you able to service customers?
No, we are, all our stores are shut down right now. But fortunately, with our gas and chemical company, Bumblebee Gas and Extraction, we've been actually servicing the community by providing isopropyl alcohol and non-denatured alcohol and actually turning that into a sanitizer. And we're still
so awesome.
Curtis, we may have lost you.
Aww.
That's a shame. If you notice Curtis's background, those of us who can still see him on freeze frame, He's at the Marijuana Museum, which is existing in Hazel Park. Jamie Lowell's been there before. That happens to be a great rack of magazines and other memorabilia, not just from Cheech and Chong, but other remnants of the era. It's quite an impressive place, Jamie.
Yeah, we did a Jazz Cabbage Cafe broadcast from there.
Sure did.
Helped to show it off and had a really great lineup of people there participating.
Yeah. That hat he was wearing itself deserves a story. That was pretty awesome. And a fog machine for the Hash Bash show? That's great.
And now I'm back on it. What's this? In the face of injustice, we stand proud and tall. Police misconduct drives us up the wall. We come in all shapes and sizes, fighting to be free. Jack-booted thuggery serves to charge our battery. We are the dildos for justice, and we are here for you. When you just don't have the juice to do what you must do, and when the police come calling cause you smoked a little grass, grab a dildo for justice and shove us up their ass. We do all the hard work at attention all the time. We may be rigid, but our justice is sublime. We vibrate with intensity, electric in our cause. When the cops don't have a warrant and they violate our laws, we are the dildos for justice, and we are here for you. When you just don't have the juice to do what you must do, and when the police come calling cause you smoked a little grass, grab a dildo for justice and shove us up their ass.
Nice.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law to provide clients with results. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
Hi, I'm attorney Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2020 Digital Hash Bash broadcast, hosted by Jamie Lowell. Jamie, you're out there, aren't you?
I'm here, hosted by all of us. I'm not taking all the credit, that's for sure.
Nope. A whole big gang of us. I'd like to introduce our next guest speaker here. BDT Smoke Shop opened in 1973. They're the #1 head shop in the Southeast Michigan for more than a dozen years. This gentleman is the face of BDT Smoke Shop, but he's so much more, and I hope he gets a chance to explain that. Let me introduce Mr. Curtis Gore.
For sleep, and we want to know how and why does cannabis either help you or keep you up at night. And we're gonna get into cannabinoids. Cannabinoids, there are 3 major cannabinoids that have been therapeutically talked about and tossed around right now that helps you sleep. You have THC, you have CBD, and CBN. Now, those are 3 of hundreds of different cannabinoids, and the science is not there yet, and we're still studying it, but we do know there's 3 main players, THC, CBD, and CBN, that does help you sleep. So if you're looking for cannabis and you're going to one of the licensed stores, and if you're so lucky in your area, there is one there, you want to ask about their cannabinoid profile of how much CBN, how much THC, and how much CBD is in there. Now, the reason why these cannabinoids actually pair with our body and help us sleep is something called the endocannabinoid system. It is one of the many systems in our body. You have your circular vascular system, you have your skeleton system, you have your cardiovascular system, and there's the endocannabinoid system. So your digestive system. So all these different systems help your body function, and so does the endocannabinoid system. It's actually responsible for bringing balance to your body. Almost like a thermostat, to where if it's too hot, it kind of kicks on the air. If it's too cold, it kicks on the heat. And sometimes we could be deficient in our cannabinoids, just like we're deficient in like vitamin C or vitamin D. We can actually supplement those deficiencies in our human cannabinoids. We call those endocannabinoids because they're inside of our body, from outside cannabinoids. And some of those outside cannabinoids are from plants. They call those phytocannabinoids. And 3 of those cannabinoids we're talking about is the THC, CBD, and CBN. And they fit like a lock and key with our system, almost as if God intended it to be, right? So a little bit more detail about THC. I know it kind of got a bad rap in the news about it being the psychoactive component of cannabis, but it by itself is really not that effective at all. It has to have an entourage effect. But THC in conjunction with the rest of the plant matter, when it's in high concentration, it does help you sleep. CBD, it really kind of relaxes you. It kind of overall gives you rest. And then CBN, that is more powerful for the sedativeness of the plant matter. So if you consume it, and sometimes you say, "Oh man, I got a couch lock." You kind of don't want to move, or you kind of just chilling, or you're sleeping for a long time. Usually, it's not because it's THC or CBD. It's really high in CBN. So those are 3 key cannabinoids that you want to pay attention to. And because the plant is so wonderful, it doesn't have just cannabinoids; it has terpenes as well, and it also has flavonoids. But there's cannabinoids. Don't want to get too confusing here. There's cannabinoids, there's terpenes, and there's flavonoids, and there's hundreds of each of those. And depending on all the combination of all that, it gives you a different effect. But there's 3 terpenes I want to highlight. So we talked about the cannabinoids, and also in conjunction with terpenes. And the terpenes I want to talk about is myrcene, caryophyllene, and linalool. Those 3 terpenes are also responsible for helping you relax. A lot of those terpenes, myrcene, caryophyllene, and linalool, can be found in a lot of purple strands, things that smell like a granddaddy purple or like a grape babe. Usually when you smell those, it has like a lavender purple hue to it, as if purple has a scent to it, but you kind of get the hint to it, like a grape purple smell to it. And then also with caryophyllene, it's a little bit more piney. That kind of reminds me of like Northern Lights. It's real piney. Those, or even some of the kushes or some of the cookies could have that kind of scent to it. So your nose can tell you also, you don't have to necessarily depend on a lab test about the cannabinoids. You can trust your instincts, trust your senses, and they can also tell you if it's good for sleep as well. So things that have like a lavender smell to it, more of like a grape purple hue to it or smell to it, and even piney, those can tell you signals that is good for sleep. And it can be a nice nightcap for you as well. Again, I am Earl from the Cannabis Therapy Network. Check out our podcast at Cannabis Therapy Network on YouTube for more information. And also, we're kicking it with Komorn at Komorn's office.
We're live. So live.
We're live. We're back.
Yes, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us.
Is Jeff still there? Listen, so we were talking about going back to work and how that was one of the things of the package. I don't want to dwell on this, but I heard this story. It's worth talking about. How I wonder how people would feel about it because it may be the era that we're in. And I'm sure it's been addressed in other legal capacities. And I do think there'll always be the issue of causation. But I heard the story. This group of friends got together on a boat. About 8 of them. They get on a boat. They drive out to the middle of the lake. And one of the people announced, "Hey, guess what? I have COVID. But my doctor said it's okay as long as I'm outside.
Oh,
and this is the healthiest place I can be." So sure enough, one of the people contracts it. severely ill in the hospital.
Didn't see that coming.
Is there a lawsuit? Let's go around the room from the lawyers. Jim, what do you say?
Well, I'm not a lawyer.
Well, you play one on TV, and you dress like something, and you are involved with advising them all the time.
Well, did the other party know that?
They told them. They said, "I have COVID. It's okay. My doctor told me."
Then they accepted the risk.
No. He only told them when they got on the boat. After they were on the boat.
Oh. Well, did they stay on the boat after that?
Where are they going to go?
Well, I'm asking. Did they go out in the water and have a pizza?
They remained because the plan was there.
Then they accepted the risk.
But they were not told that before they got on the boat. Is that relevant?
If they would have kicked them off immediately and said get lost, then I'd say yeah, there's probably a lawsuit there.
Wait, I have my hand raised. I have a clarifying question here. So they were in the middle of the lake or whatever when this person told them that they had COVID?
That's right.
Yeah.
In the middle of the lake?
Yes, didn't tell me before they got on the boat.
Okay, so they wasn't accepting the risk.
Well, no, Allie. Another clarifying question: the middle of the lake, does that mean the boat is at the dock, or does that mean the boat is
the
like
boat's pulled away?
Okay.
They're driving.
Well, then
shirts
I
are
agree.
off, bathing suits are on,
Yeah,
hats are, suntan lotions going on.
Yeah, they're slapping each other around.
Want to hear something funny? Guess
I got
what?
the COVID.
Right.
No, then they're fucked.
That's not accepting the risk.
No, Allie's right. There's a
I would say
there's a
that's
lawsuit
not
there.
accepting the risk.
It's not accepting the risk.
No, it's not informed.
Well,
I think they have a duty to disclose. Wouldn't they have a duty
Before
to
you
disclose?
go out
Of
on
course
a boat,
they
'cause
do.
boats are usually fairly
Do they?
Of course they do. It's
Do
just
they? Is there a moral or legal duty? Because before you're going to hold someone to a duty, there's got to be a clear legal duty that they have notice of, and there's
well, let's find out. Isn't there case law surrounding AIDS?
That is correct. That is correct, Michael. You're dead on. Number one, this is tort law. Was this a case of negligence? Is
I
there
would
a
say
duty?
definitely moral duty. I don't know if legal duty because I feel like it's such a new
Well,
area.
what's
but
the case? What's the case law on someone that knowingly has HIV and infects somebody else?
I think they have to legally, if I remember correctly. Jim's
I've never
fact-checking.
litigated this. These are plaintiff cases.
I agree with you, Anna. I believe that if somebody has HIV, they have a duty to disclose that they are HIV positive to somebody else. But I would have to check,
I
case
think
law
Jim's
and whatnot.
checking.
Well, somebody that they're going to sleep with, presumably.
Yeah,
The thing about,
I'm sorry.
right?
What were you going to say, Jeff?
I mean, in that case, I mean, do you disclose to yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, the question is, who do you owe a duty to? And if you are symptomatic and know that you've tested positive for COVID and you're going to be around people, in other words, you're going to be in public around people, is there a duty to disclose up front? I think that probably makes out
I think it'd be a
duty in court
negligence
that they breached the moment that they got on the boat. And then the question is, did it approximately cause the damages?
I think it's not negligent. I think we're at the point it's arguably reckless.
It might be, but I don't think
I think it would be considered reckless.
Gross negligence, but the analysis is the same. Was there a duty? I think so. Did they breach? Yeah, I think so. Did it approximately cause damages? Yeah.
Is there a clear legal duty?
Contributory negligence, like they stayed on the boat.
How do you have causation? How do you know that they caught it from that person? You have to know all the other places that they'd eliminate them from.
More likely than not.
Well, the whole thing is the
cause of action, though, to get to a jury.
The duty would be from, I would say my argument, just off the top of my head, would be the duty would be, well, there's an executive order that you're required to wear a mask when you're out in public and you're not able to socially distance. So that would be off the top of my head.
But that lets them off the hook. Like you all came out here and assumed the risk of not socially distancing and no one had a mask on.
But were they
That makes that a
protesting?
case
But
for
they also, I thought they also said too, if I'm trying to think.
Well, here's the question: if everyone's not wearing a mask,
then everybody accepts the risk.
And one person says, "Guess what? I have COVID."
Bummer.
Right. But the thing is like.
That's how it works.
You should you should disclose it. Well, you're supposed to quarantine yourself if you know you're positive.
I would say that all of this is almost the equivalent of like the defense of self-defense, where first one person pulls out a fist, the next person pulls out a pen, the next person pulls out a knife, the next person pulls out a gun. So we're on the boat. No one's wearing a mask. No one's wearing a mask. They're all violating the order.
All of them.
Right. But somebody who has COVID It's not wearing a mask. The whole thing is if you have it, you're protecting other people by wearing a mask.
Do you know in Michigan?
That may be more of a duty.
Do you know in Michigan they had
you knowingly have it and not wearing a mask?
They had to create a law in Michigan for HIV.
Well,
I'm sure they did, of course.
You're supposed to quarantine.
That's true. That's also a violation of the executive order. There's a lot of criminal activity going on here.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Allie's right. This is negligence per se. It's violation of regulations that led to precisely the kind of harm that the regulations were put in place to keep from happening. It's a clear...
Yeah, you're positive, you're supposed to quarantine. If you think you've been exposed, you quarantine until you get tested and get your results back.
You didn't tell everybody that you have it as you're not quarantined.
Right.
That's not a requirement. That's not per se a requirement.
A reasonable person would infer that if you're not in quarantine, you're not infected.
Listen, I heard
negligence thing is a reasonable person. A reasonable person who knows that they have COVID, a reasonable person would quarantine themselves and not expose themselves to other people. Right there, I mean.
But going out on a boat when the executive order says
They're in the sun.
going out.
So a reasonable person would quarantine themselves and not expose themselves to other people.
But if I am going out on a boat and don't wear a mask and I'm not 6 feet or further from some people and there's more than 10 people on the boat and I'm avoiding all of the points of the executive order, aren't I contributing to my own negligence by just being there under the circumstances?
You are.
And then just say that one person, any of them knowingly have it and don't tell me, or any of them knowingly have it and do tell me, and I get it either way. Like, what's my, I'm there.
I think there might be a duty on them to tell you.
Not a legal duty. I listen. I'm not arguing with you. Is there a legal duty? I mean, I'm just saying.
No,
I know the law.
I know that
on legal duty is
in Michigan. It's a 4-year felony if someone with HIV knows their status and engages in
sexual contact and doesn't tell them.
There's certainly
a felony.
A 4-year felony. But that's
What about if somebody had not quite as severe, of course, as the HIV and or COVID?
Like what, herpes
what about,
some other STD or something like that?
Not even
bronchitis.
STD, but
Yeah.
like
What about the
bronchitis.
flu?
What if
There's
I'm
no-
sick
there's no-
and I share some J's with somebody, and then I'm like, oh, by the way, you guys, I have bronchitis.
So let's not talk about marijuana. Let's
I
talk
don't
about only sex. We're not talking about sex passing diseases.
All right.
I'm kidding. But
this is only for HIV. That's
I understand that, but it sets a standard of
But I mean,
it doesn't set any standard. This
Specific to
it's
HIV, I know,
specific to HIV, and I mean I don't mean to draw the comparison as far as the severity to it, but it would I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be the same as if I infected someone with the flu, let's say, and they passed away from it, and it was a horrible flu, and I infected them, and I did not disclose to them that I had the flu. It's another transmission of a disease, and I would expect that the statute that covers me transmitting the flu, that whatever liability I would incur as a result of that and not disclosing that fact.
It's a civil, it's not criminal. Maybe there's some civil damages. I think also very difficult to show causation. For example, all of the nursing homes.
Right.
Like there's all kinds of liability. Like there was a. Like we don't know. I mean, something happened there, right? The high number of, and the idea that they didn't have a solution other than just let them stay there and die.
It was horrible execution.
Whatever it was, there was no solution. I mean, it's whose fault is that? And I'm sure people were bringing it in. So one person brought it in. Everyone got sick and died.
I mean, the operations of those nursing homes. The reports I read said that they had staff moving from COVID positive units to COVID. And they say, well, the nursing staff and the medical staff was separate, but then the janitorial staff was shared. I mean, it was ridiculous.
What about any one of the workers in those situations, or in a ICU unit, or some kind of unit where the care of the patients is overseen by personnel that their mere having a cold or a flu or anything that would be contagious could seriously impact the immune system of their patient, right? This happens, whatever it may be.
I'm sure
and they go
to wear a mask.
I'm saying even pre-COVID, whatever it may be.
No, I know that. I'm saying even if like somebody's around somebody, a cancer patient. Sorry.
No, but
continue.
No, but that's my point. I mean, is there causation there? I don't know. I don't know if that's the history of those kind of cases.
I don't know.
We're in an interesting area liability.
I can guarantee you one thing: we're going to find out because this issue is going to be litigated.
You were talking about this a lot.
There will be a lawsuit.
When you were talking about this a lot when you were first getting back and setting up some standards even before there was any kind of.
Yeah.
And like I think the fact that some of the courts that we've been forced to go into have not provided a protocol or have taken steps to suggest that they can have X amount of people there when the governor just back there. It doesn't. None of it makes any sense in terms of the way
the
they're.
adoption doesn't. The order is clear.
Well, they were pretending that the courts are normal.
Yeah, I know.
These judges want to go back so bad that they want to move it along, and it's
Their dockets are all held
Which
up,
brings us
you
to the
know,
next
like-
topic. Watch me transition here. Ingham County first jury trial since the pandemic began will look a little different.
Looking a little different.
This is one of the scariest things. And I say this. Steve was with me. We had this week in a specific court, and we had a lot of time in like the jury room with the judge. And amongst the thousands of topics other than the case that we talked about, one was, counsel, they're seeking all the judges to, come up with some kind of plan how we can go back to doing jury trials, how we can actually, because their concerns are the jury pool, number one. We have to have a large group of people that can be questioned and still separate. None of the rooms are big enough for that. That's the non-starter. Then they have the issue of whether or not
there's easy ways around that one.
Well, you got to have
continue.
You have to have a big space. They're not going to do it on Zoom. They're not going to do it on Zoom.
Why?
Because there's too many factors.
There's no factors. They log into Zoom and they say,
I'm never going to agree to it.
That they're sitting in a virtual waiting room and then they tell the jurors when they need to get in the car and drive to the courthouse. I agree the jurors should be there live. But this idea that you have to get, especially in a circuit court, maybe almost 200 people into a single space, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
That there's a consensus there. Alan Pizer, what do you say? Are we going to start zooming our jury voir dire? Is that ever a thing that's going to happen?
It's not a jury. That's not what I'm. That's not it. That's not what I'm suggesting.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that they don't need to bring all these people.
Well, when they do the picking of the jury in the voir dire, it begins with a pool of individuals.
Yeah, that's available in the background. They bring 12 or whatever forward,
and you ask them
questions. And then you get to pick and choose, and then some of them are removed.
Right, but the ones that are
additional ones.
But the ones that are in the pool, listen to the questions. So when they get up there, we're not starting
I
from
thought
the
you were
very
talking
beginning.
about the waiting room before you ever even make it to the jury.
No, you're fine. Wait, hold on, time out. Allie, hold on, time out.
Okay.
Jim's asking the question about the initial jury questionnaires.
Yeah, no, I know.
Which is the documents that the person fills out that gives a little background information that the lawyers have can get a few days before the trial.
No, that's part of it, and then there's the actual you're at the
jury
courthouse.
duty, right? You show up on that Monday.
What I'm saying is just don't bring 200 people in, and
well, there has to be enough to make it fair, because if you've got if you've got one courtroom with one jury that you have to impanel for one case.
Yeah, but all these people live in the district, so I mean.
But some of the courts, like Wayne County, for example, they got 20 courtrooms.
Yeah, but.
Part
of that is the system's fault and the fact that.
Well, it's a bigger population.
I get it.
The number of cases that they have is proportionate, arguably, to the number of the population.
But it's also not right to make people wait for their day in court. I mean, I mean, I totally agree. These people have the jury has to be there live.
So they're trying to find a solution.
Yes.
Here we go. Ingham County.
I think I have a solution.
I agree. The parking lot. I told the judge that, and I would say this. So what the judge did, it was funny. He's like, listen, I have a plan. I threw it out there, sent it to a bunch of other judges. I don't mind if they want to join me in creating this, but he said I can walk off 14 spots here in this jury room as he went around and found his 14 spots, which would be the entire, 14 people that would be listening to the trial. 2 would be released as alternates, or they'd go wait somewhere.
Well, I have a solution to this. To those like screens that you can set up to put a projector on. Put them in the parking, like in a parking garage or something that's somewhere nearby, so they can see it, and then put it in the parking garage, and then they're all socially distanced from each other
in their car. I like that. Listen, they did that at a movie in Franklin last night. The kids. Movie, like you pull in, it's like an outdoor movie.
Like
they pick up a radio station that you can listen to on your car, some kind of a ham radio or something
like that.
And
then they can see you on the screen.
See on the screen or live? But you
Well,
still
they
have
can
to
see you
answer.
on the- well, they can see you live on the screen. and
How are
they
they going to
can hear
answer,
you.
though? I got to see their mouth. I want to see how they react. Nice try. I'm not buying it.
The court gives them
Michael's not
either
buying it.
they have their cell phones or
No
the
way.
court gives them some sort of thing to.
Listen, the voir dire for trial purposes is sometimes is the
I'm
win.
just saying, like for the overall jury pool, like when you had the rest of the jury pool who's not being voir dired at the time, the rest of the jury pool that is potential jurors, as I'm saying. Or have them all in separate rooms.
Analytically speaking, that may make sense. We're talking about that, but there's a critical aspect of this.
Just trying to come up with.
You are, and they're good ideas. And I like this idea. I was with you. I actually went down that whole, like outdoor movie theater, and maybe even some carry-out that they'll bring to your car too. Who knows? But
that'd be a good idea.
But I would say this, that the whole point, like they're trying more and more and more not to allow this kind of thing to happen. But all trial lawyers want to believe that when they stand up and open their mouth to say something, whatever it may be on behalf of their client, they are going to be so compelling and persuasive that it's that activity and the bonding with the juror that will make or break the case. That is now that may be fantasy. It may never really happen, but it's it's, I think in some capacity there's a connection, whether it be whatever degree of art versus however the style is, it is a factor. And I think the way we're describing it here, with masks, with
But mask, it takes away from the whole body language thing. I think the only way to get around this is to have each juror in their own little plexiglass box to keep them all separate.
Yeah, I'm fine with plexiglass. They got to build
like each juror separated by plexiglass from each one of them from you too. So each juror, unfortunately, would be like in a plexiglass box.
It'd get pretty hot.
It sucks, but it sounds like the better choice because it really does.
Hazmat.
Hopefully, no one farts in their little.
Does anyone remember the movie? Does anyone remember
They better have an eye.
Hopefully, nobody's what do you call it? You're afraid of small spaces. What's it called?
Claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic. Thank you.
Here, does anyone remember
the cone of silence? Remember the cone of silence from Get Smart?
Yeah.
No,
we can't use that.
Okay, I'm going to the same era of reference. Anyone remember the movie The Boy in the Plastic Bubble?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be everybody.
They could do like they have the jury in the plastic bubble, but they have the separating the.
John Travolta.
Right. John Travolta.
That was post Get Smart, but still a long time ago.
I seem to remember that movie with the Brian Piccolo story, the Something for Brian. I don't know if those are around the same time.
Brian's song,
yeah, whatever. Something for,
I actually know that movie somehow.
All right. Chicago Bears. The Bears. All right, so what are we talking about? So we're back to this jury trial thing, and Lance, let's talk about this. So it's going to look a little different. So what the point is that these judges are trying to come up and be creative. We should tell the world that Allie has some ideas she wants to express.
I solve all the world's problems.
That's true. We can't justify doing nothing, said the judge. Nothing worse than I mean, I shouldn't say nothing worse, but this is a very active judge, very industrious, wants to get the thing going. Said as she chatted with the Ingham County Circuit Court Judge Wanda Stokes, Ellie, during a recess in jury selection.
Wanda Stokes.
Ingham County Circuit Court Judge, right.
Okay.
Stokes, along with several other county judges and defenders, were on the call to observe. I'm hoping this works, but we'll see. We had far fewer problems today than I anticipated. No jury trials have been conducted in the county since courthouses closed in mid-March. In an attempt to slow the spread of COVID, hearings initially were held as necessary via Zoom, in person, or later streamed live on YouTube, but more took place as restrictions were pulled back. Ingham County Chief Circuit Judge Garcia said, Aquina is a part of a pilot program in the Michigan Supreme Court to explore how jury trials can be conducted remotely. The county will use a hybrid model. Jury selection will be done virtually, but the rest of the trial will be conducted in person. Each trial has to be approved by the State Court Administrator's Office. I don't know. Okay. And let's see. This trial is for a man charged with malicious destruction of utility property and fraudulent use of public utility. The case dates back to 2015 when prosecutors say the offense took place. He was charged in April but had a bench warrant out for his arrest until June. More than 2 years later, he's set to have his day in court. While the initial selection was done remotely, the jury headed to the courtroom Tuesday to begin the trial. The cramped jury box has been outfitted with plexiglass barriers, spoken about here before we got to this, between the top and bottom rows of 7 chairs. They're dealing with 7 in misdemeanor cases, important to distinguish. 6 will deliberate, but 7 are the usual number selected for the with an extra. Cramped, shorter barriers between each seats. Garcia said 2 courtrooms in circuit court and 1 in probate court have been modified for jury trials. We tried over the last few months to put those off, and a lot of things got adjourned. Now I notice we're starting to get back to some sense of normalcy as it relates to getting trials conducted and pushing forward. Social distancing and health and safety standard has slowed their dockets. This is a common debate of the docket versus constitutional rights, the docket versus health and safety of the general public. And, of course, when we talk about the docket, the slowness of the docket. Because God forbid a judge should have a slow docket, whatever that means. It's not even a thing. Well, hearings and that's what this is all about. These, we got to want to work today. Let's get some stuff done. Why are they pretending that this is going to be a thing, a jury trial by Zoom? I'm never going to agree to that. There's no way.
I shouldn't say that.
How do you have a confrontation clause?
David Rudoy, friend of the show.
Depends what he said. Let's see.
Well, he did. I think he had a good point, which is maybe some defendants just want to get it over with, and they have such a slam dunk case that they just want their day in front of the jury, and that they would voluntarily accept a jury trial
by Zoom.
By Zoom, right? I'd never considered that because I would never ever agree to that. But
I wouldn't want to do a Zoom one. There was a whole thing before where there was the allegations where somebody who wasn't the actual juror or the witness or something was
right, Allie. But isn't
here you go?
But isn't it your right? Isn't it your right to determine that? And
no, I would say this because what it does is even if the defendant is doing that, that may be their right to, but there's other issues that are immediately come to the right to cross-examination.
I understand all of that.
Well,
but they're waiving those rights. That's my point.
You can't waive your right. You can't have a trial and waive your right to counsel. That's ineffective assistance of counsel. What does the appellate lawyer Alan Pizer say?
AP.
I think you can waive your right to an in-person trial. I think that if the defendant knowingly waives it, I would personally counsel against doing a Zoom trial. But I think there may be some cases where it's going to be done, and I think that's the future, and we can't fight it, even though I personally am against it, because I think it's important to have the face-to-face confrontation that we're used to in the traditional courtroom setting.
If we're going to accept... Do you see the defendant in the courtroom today? Yes, it's the one wearing the mask over there without any other description, and that's acceptable? Do you understand, that statement on the record, how it looks, does not identify anyone other than the masked man.
Yeah, it's the masked
this
person.
is like the exact, what did he look like when he was wearing a mask? What do you look like? Give us a description. You're wearing a mask.
Was the guy with the mask?
It's the guy with the mask on. That is not identity. That's the opposite of identification. That passed today in court without even blinking. That's the problem from the onset of any kind of Zooming. From the get-go, we're in court talking about that, but I'm saying, now they're in they're not, the juries aren't sequestered for any period of time. Who's to keep them off the internet? They're going to get bored. How else am I going to get anyone to listen to me unless they're forced to sit there and listen to my drabble for all day and want to go home and get angry at me during the trial? How could that be?
Valid point. Yeah.
Just
impossible. Kidding.
But there's a lot of stories in the big city. Maybe Alan Pizer, who is a big fan of social media, can opine on this. I don't know if he sees the feeds in the Wayne County Bar feed and some of the Macomb. It goes something like this: the judges have on Zoom 30 people, and nobody knows how to work it. Okay, so no one's on mute. Yeah. No one's on mute. People are going to the bathroom. Kids are crying. They're beating each other up. They're drinking. They're smoking. Judges trying to tell people you can't hear anything. This is Zoom. Nobody's. There's no. And if for a judge to get mad at someone because they can't do their Zoom or they've done something,
it's hilarious.
Because they haven't been taught by the master Alan Pisner, Zoom master, Zen master, Zoom. It does not mean that they should be punished. And there's been a lot of we got clients that Zoom that they get a panic attack.
What is that?
I have
Right?
that too with our telemedicine, Michael. There have been several patients already that have said, I just do not want to be on camera. I don't want to be on Zoom. I don't know how to use it.
So here's the dilemma. This is the worst part. So what do? I say, come to the office. We'll do it from here. We'll both Zoom together. Which, it's like, this is insane. It's like, I gotta like.
They're exposed to and
right.
who they've been around with.
Jeff, am I crazy to raise my voice and get all spastic like I like to get? Jamie, and get Jamie in there too. Jeff, Fraser, what do you say?
No, Michael, I don't think you're well, Jeff looks like he's muted right now, but no, Michael, I don't think you're being too spastic.
Okay, that's fair.
No, not at all. In fact, what we need to be doing is setting up these trials in outdoor amphitheaters. Instead of a courtroom, we need outdoor amphitheater. Think of it as a play, but
yes.
outdoors.
That's right. I suggested that to.
So funny that you said that, Jeff.
They could do that. They could really do that. They could set up like a
actors to hire things or
like a wedding. Like they set up like a wedding. They got some tents and stuff. They get some heaters. So if it's later in the year, maybe put a wall. They should really be doing that. They should create their own. And then what? Where do they go after that? To their car? How are they going to manage that? That's crazy.
It's such a mess.
How are they going to record it outside?
Such a mess.
They're going to have to go back. All the courts have gone back to recording, so they probably have to go. They have to cite the need for the old, the ones that talk into it, or do the
old video camera.
Well, the ones that used to talk into them, they record like this, or do the actual transcription. Yeah, instead of
court reporters and court recorders.
Yeah.
Old school, like a stenographer.
Yeah.
I'm
where they're
afraid
typing.
the system is crumbling.
So is this going to happen? I mean, Jeff, what do you think? Are we going to go? I mean. They're pretending like it's okay. That's the problem that I have. Like, these courts are like, oh yeah, we're gonna, it's going pretty good. We're pretty good.
The one court we were in, it looked like all their court officers were in the high risk category to me.
That's not good.
Yeah, you're right. Right. That's interesting. All of the sheriffs, all the deputies,
yesterday.
the court deputies are usually retired sheriffs. You know what I mean? In most of the courts, right? By the way, the judge in this case,
Overweight, married at that age.
Aquilina's her name. I know she's a fervent painter. She's also the judge who made the ruling in People versus
Nassar.
What'd you say?
Nassar. She was the judge on the Nassar case.
Yes, but before that, the case involving usable marijuana, Alan, the name is...
Oh, the Kuhn. People versus Kuhn.
No. Toulouse.
The parking lot case?
Toulouse. Usable marijuana. Randall? No, after Randall. Manuel.
Okay.
She was the judge in Manuel, which also says caregivers can sell marijuana plants to their caregivers, just so you know. She's also the judge that sat over in the Larry Nassar, Sunzine, and was a lot of attention was brought to that because of her handling of the Sunzine, whether you love it or not. But a lot of people liked her ruling in the Manuel case. I mean, can these confrontation, the basic principles of conducting trials, Jeff? Was I right to object to the witness that my client wanted to see the face of the witness testifying, and wanted, in order for the judge to make a fact finding, needed to see the face? Was that inappropriate?
No, it's totally appropriate.
No, it's totally appropriate. Hey, have any of you ever been to Meadowbrook Amphitheater?
Yes.
Yes. That'd be a great place for a trial.
That's my old.
Right.
Yeah.
There. That's how you do it.
How are they going to? Yeah. That's,
Oakland County has a huge amphitheater. They actually have two in the building. They could do them in there as well.
Where in Oakland County?
Inside or outside? You can't do them inside.
There's an inside amphitheater in Oakland
an
County.
Outside one.
We're looking for outside, Alan.
Where?
There's an inside one that holds 200 people. It's in the wing next to the prosecutors. They swear in new attorneys there.
I wasn't. Oh, I was sworn in like a solo ceremony, so I wasn't there.
They swear in like 200-300 attorneys there.
Oh no, I did a solo one, so not that special, I guess.
Where's that, Alan? It's in the.
It's special because you were the highlight.
When you walk in, it's to the left side when you walk in from the first floor entrance.
Right. It's got a blue.
It's next to the prosecutor's wing.
Right.
It's kind of a circular structure off the prosecutor's wing. It's been there 20 years.
Outdoors.
What do they? So okay, forget the amphitheater. So other than going into the amphitheater building business like old Roman times, that's a good business to be in right now, according to Jeff. It's not going to happen. They're going to try to force us back into court. Put a mask on, take it off. Can't see it, can't hear you. Counsel, sit down, shut up. Let's convict your client faster. Let's go. I got a docket to move here.
That's what they want to do. Is that going to happen?
Are we going to have trials, Jeff? You think? Is this a reality? Are they just going to totally throw these ideas out the door?
What I found here in Texas, talking to some of the folks that are in criminal defense day in day out down here, is that the prosecutors are making deals. Nobody wants COVID. Nobody wants to get this stuff. Prosecutors are making deals. They're diverting people from prison. They're not doing business as usual. And I don't know. Michigan's a machine. You're
saying it's being handled differently, more equitably?
This pandemic has landed on the top of a district court system in the state of Michigan that is admittedly unconstitutionally biased.
Yeah.
And fucked up.
The court can remain nameless, but I did hear this a judge from a certain county that normally I think he would say, we're not of the 10 or 15 cities in our county, ours is in the lower end of crime or criminal cases that come through my district, right? Because he does all the exams. And what he said was that he was frustrated because the prosecutor's office, that can remain nameless, had this no waiver policy. Even the defense lawyer wanted to waive the exam. They insisted on holding it for whatever reason in very limited circumstances. We were talking about that. And he was really frustrated because he's trying to move his docket, but there's a huge number of new cases that arose out of his jurisdiction, which is like more than ever, like month after month after month, all because of the effect of the COVID. He said there's tons of domestic violence cases, a lot of alcohol-related offenses, violent, driving cases.
About to go up even more.
Well, the question is whether or not this is a real, is that a real reflection? Is there a causal thing, or is it just that the police took a month off and needed to work on their numbers? You know what I mean? And it was kind of like shooting
fish in a barrel.
I don't know. What do you think? Does that happen? Do you think that would have been something, Steve? Now that we're back at it, I mean, in order for that kind of activity to take place, the police have to be given the authority to go. Like they're back at it. Go get them, guys.
I think they've told them that. You're back at it's back to normal. I see them out there running traffic, pulling traffic stops, everything. I tell you what, if I was a chief of a department right now, I would tell my guys minimal contact with people, calls for service only make a traffic stop if you see a guy driving like an asshole that appears to be drunk and is posing a risk to public safety. I would want my officers to be in minimal contact with the public and do so, and maybe the police should just start operating this way. Jim, what do you think? Respond to calls, do your active patrols of your neighborhoods and your business districts, right, and shaking doors and things like that. And I was talking to Michael about all this earlier, and I had this vision of all the criminal justice college courses I took of I was going to become some part of a community and be like a community member and doing things and living there and all that. And so I went to my first police department in Milan and moved right to town. And the senior officers are like, "What are you doing moving right to town? You don't want to be in town." And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird, because everything I just learned in college about police work was that you should live right in your town and be part of the community and all that. And then when I got into the training program, I found out what the game was. And the game is out there screwing with people. Yeah. Shaking people down, getting in cars. If you're not doing that, you ain't shit. And you know what? We got this category on your daily observation report called CIFA. And that's the only way you're going to pass this program, is if you have good numbers in CIFA.
Well, I would like to...
Self-initiated field activity. I guess I should have explained that. So self-initiated field activity is traffic stops for anything and everything he possibly can. Any person walking down the street, stop them, question them, talk to them. Even though they haven't committed a crime, you're still gonna get their ID from them, and you're gonna run their name, and they probably have warrants, because anybody who's just walking along Michigan Avenue, they got to have some sort of warrant or court problem on their thing. So you may get an arrest out of it. And you know what? They probably, at a minimum, if they don't have a warrant, they probably got a marijuana joint on them. So that was the game.
And who knows? You may freak them out and they'll run you and get them for resisting and obstructing.
Right.
Even though they didn't do anything wrong.
And that was the game. And I was taught you pile up the charges as much as you can.
Submit the warrant, and then they'll work out a plea, and you'll get your overtime when you go to court for
that was
dollar bill.
I'm about to write the city of Ypsi a letter, because it seems as if the only cop that's on duty in the city of Ypsi is the parking lady. Okay? And she's
out there with a vigor.
Oh my gosh, there's nobody.
There's going to be some enforcement.
And if she had a SIFA, you better believe.
I think at the end of the day, in the world of social justice reform and police reform and criminal justice reform, we're going to have to start swallowing that, if the police are making some money and not arresting people. You know what I mean? Like that seems to be like the only payout, the only agreement that could ever be made. Like we'll stop arresting you.
But
well, that's what I'm saying.
Money-making business.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the whole system's built to, you get your forfeiture, you got your criminal, it's turned into a business for the courts. They're building these big, courts. But, I mean, why do cities have parking meters? Are they allowed to? Of course they are. They manage their own.
As they have written their own article dated about a year ago when the mayor was there, the very first and the last impression you have of the city of Ypsi is parking. Okay? So that's pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we have the bare minimum of folks that are down there. Why do you want the first or last?
To deter them by giving them tickets and running them out of there.
That is the absolute worst idea. I understand from a city generating revenue. But I understand that there are many people who would choose not to come to Ypsi and would rather go to Ann Arbor anyway. So they ought to watch their P's and Q's.
There's a place in Monroe, so Dewey would attest to this, where when you go over your limit, they ticket you. As long as you've been in a place, like a business, which the court's included, they will wipe the ticket. Like, as long as you're not coming down there just parking. You know what I'm saying?
Not these guys.
I know. I'm saying, like, it's weird. Like, as long as they give you a break if you're doing business in the town. You know what I mean? As long as you're not loitering or just parking, to
Right.
carpool or something like that. I don't know.
It's just that and this is the last thing I'll say because I get worked up about this a lot, every day actually. But she walks the town, walks the blocks.
This is the mayor?
This is just the standard City of Ypsi parking meter lady.
I guess you better watch your parking in Ypsi. Eh?
Oh my gosh.
She likes her job.
She loves it, and she is very good at it. But the thing is there's no action down there anymore. You see the whole parking lot, which used to be absolutely full. You couldn't find a spot, which would, okay, yeah, ticket people. But the thing is there's nobody there now. So just leave them there, okay? They're probably working.
You know what? She was probably a superstar in her department. She probably had all kinds of numbers. She came with stats that nobody could touch. She's like a legend and stuff like that. And she's like, don't worry, I'm going to get back out there. I'm going to do my thing. So she's out there like, I feel empathetic for her. Like, what does she got going on? She's like queen of traffic. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I know.
If I were chief of any department right now, we'd be foregoing the CIFA activity for the time being.
Just leave people alone. They're already on edge.
Respond to your accidents, respond to your calls for service. I'm sure there's plenty of domestic violence to keep you busy.
Is Jamie still with us? He jumped off, didn't he? I just want to make sure because I wanted him to respond. Jamie still there? No. Alan is, okay. All right. There was this one thing. We had the last topic that I wanted to talk about, maybe too late, but it's certainly
it is
political.
pretty late.
Okay, stop. Let me see if I can find it here.
Pretty late.
All right, but it was one of the ones on the list, and we can blow through it real quick, and we can carry it over. How's that? Okay. No more than.
Is it about cannabis and coffee?
3 minutes. No, it's not.
I do love
but it's
that
on the
combo.
list. Why do you
It
love
is
it?
a good
Why do you love it?
combo.
Together? You mean like you're smoking, or it's together?
I love to. First, I like to have a cup of coffee, and then I medicate. I have to have at least a few drinks of my coffee, and then I'll start smoking. You know,
Right.
that's just how it goes.
Don't do the honey first thing in the morning in the coffee.
Sometimes I'll put it in with my first cup of coffee, but if I do that, it typically makes me sleepy through the remainder of the day.
Oh, really?
So I have to be careful when I put the when I start the medicating.
All right, here's the last topic. This is published July 27, 2020. The title is the Democratic Party delegates reject marijuana legalization amendment to the 2020 policy platform. Jeffrey, you laugh at
Imagine
The
that.
Democratic National Committee's platform on Monday rejected an amendment calling on the party to support marijuana legalization
Jeffy's
as an
always
official
said it.
2020 policy plank. I didn't say policy prank. It should
No.
be policy plank.
Plank.
Several delegates testified in favor of the proposal, arguing that legalization ending the war on drugs will help resolve racial inequalities, as said here on Planet Green Trees,
Imagine that.
and stimulate the economy. What do you know? But following discussions of the measures, it was shot down in a 50 to 106 vote with 3 abstentions. The panel
That's a
opted
lot.
to keep the language included in a draft platform that was released last week. The documents call for decriminalizing cannabis possession, automatic expungements of primary
they're
convictions,
decrim.
federal rescheduling, things that we're trying to do, through executive action. What do you know? That's a good idea. That's what we've been talking about. Legalizing medical cannabis, allowing states to set their own laws. Like presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, it stops short of endorsing adult use legalization. The language very closely echoes recommendations released earlier this month by Criminal Justice Reform Task Force that Biden and former primary rival Senator Bernie Sanders organized. We cannot ignore the fact that the current marijuana criminalization policy has, in too many cases, been used to target people of color. Delegate Dennis Odusky, who introduced the amendment, said they are unfairly and disproportionately 6 times more likely to be arrested than other citizens. Iowa County. Okay, so it just goes on here with everyone piping in on their own thing. Now,
The Dems just
I would say
don't
this.
get it.
At the this is interesting. I think because you're talking about I think the platform of the National Attorney General's Association, we learned, was to be in favor of legalization.
Yeah.
Like the polls.
Sure was.
It was.
Sure was.
You understand what I'm saying? So we were, because of our closeness to the campaign for Attorney General, we were told that if you're running for Attorney General of the state, you want to reach out to the national organization. They're going to give you guidance. They're going to spot you. If you get to a certain point, they may even give you money. They may even endorse your campaign. So along the way, contact is made with the national organization, and they send out a platform and say, listen, if you want to get elected and beat your Republican, this is what we're suggesting, the platform that you accept. In 2018, the National Democratic Attorney General Association platform included be in favor of the legalization of marijuana. Now, the idea that 2 years later, with no identifiable reason not to, right? This state did it, and now they are mutated. The dogs are eating the children. I don't know. The sky is falling, whatever it may be. So we can't do that. Nothing like that. It's ignored. You know what I mean? Not even reflecting on the results of state of Michigan, for example. Seemingly that was a policy decision that impacted many. I think that this is so stupid, and it just goes back to, again, I don't know that nothing that I'm saying, and I think it is a fair qualification, suggests that I am saying the other side is someone that anyone could vote for. Steve and I can agree to disagree about that. But this Joe Biden guy is a terrible idiot.
Horrible.
He's not someone anybody should vote for either.
It's
No,
depressing.
nobody should vote for
Hold on. I'm not saying that they shouldn't vote for him because it's the lesser of two evils. I'm not endorsing it or not, but I'm just saying this is a stupid policy.
The whole two-party system is failing us once again.
If there was a reason in all the policies that he could have accepted, he could have said, Bernie, you want health care for all or one payer or whatever. all the super liberal, progressive, whatever that he wants to remain mainstream. All he had to say was, let's legalize marijuana. Seriously, it would have neutralized, at least for the time being. It would have been a break in the.
It'd help us believe that he's gotten over some of his drug war fostering ways, but so far he has not.
I'll tell you something. Anybody that still thinks that marijuana should be illegal today is either does not understand the history of marijuana in Michigan.
Well, he does appear to be suffering from some sort of dementia, so that could have something to do with it.
Or they are so blinded by police enforcement that they. And the power that goes along with that, and the idyllic of being good to that, I think that's the problem we run into all the time. The trial that Jamie was referring to, the case that the judge, felt like the judge was defending the witness that we were trying to impeach. You will not speak badly of this witness. But this happens a lot, where there's this attempt to protect the great law enforcement, because they don't have enough protections. They don't have
qualified
immunity. They don't have violate your Fourth Amendment rights.
Well, I didn't realize I had all this protections coming up in the field.
Fourth Amendment rights, oops, good faith. Oh, mistake of law. I'm a law enforcement officer, but I made a reasonable mistake.
I always thought I had to know the law.
No.
And unless I fucking knew it,
Steve. Just like you don't need to be a lawyer to be a magistrate.
No, what happens is
they started allowing cops to make shit up as they went along.
Yeah. And when you make it up, this is what happens when you get caught in the stand, and you're asked that question. You say, it was just a reasonable mistake.
I didn't mean it.
It's just a reasonable mistake.
I'm a good guy.
Counsel, you've asked your question. Move on. Judge, they didn't answer my question. You didn't like the answer. They answered your question. That's the kind of shit.
Yeah, that's what you get. It's insane.
God, there's some shenanigans that go on in court. It's just such nonsense. I mean,
it is.
It's hard after being away for a little while and, taking everybody serious. Like, this is, we're really going to do this? Yeah. We're really going to do this? We're going to pretend like, especially today in St. Clair, joke land out there. God. Oh.
It's a shame.
The last medical marijuana case.
Such a lovely county.
All right, who wants to talk? Let someone else take over. Allie. Jim,
it's probably
Jeff,
down
someone,
time.
Ellen.
It's almost 10:30.
Yeah, it's shutting down time.
Shutting her down.
Shut it down time.
It's been a long
Say your
week,
final piece
long
so we
day.
can all go and have our we can be enlightened by your words, please. Let's start with Ellen.
Starting with me, I just want to say I'm very proud of the Komorn Law Firm for batting 1,000 on all their license applications.
Haha, yes, sir.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
That sounds higher than 95%.
It's like no hitter after no hitter.
Oh.
Every outing's like a no hitter, complete game, no walks.
So you have a perfect record.
Yeah.
I would like to say congratulations to John Smith, who is going to be the winner of the T-shirt today.
Winner,
so
chicken
be
dinner.
sure to send over your information to our instant message so we can get that out to you. And stay tuned next week. Trivia question.
You can put that to the attention of Dirty Dan.
Please, if you would have him take a picture of the shirt and send it.
Yes,
we'd like
and
to
actually, we would love to see your smiling, happy face
smoking a cannabis
with a cannabis cigarette
or hemp.
Or hemp, as it were.
A hemp cigarette.
With your T-shirt, so we can post that onto our webpage and all of our social media platforms.
You know what a hemp cigarette's
Fire
the
creatures.
equivalent of, Jim? Drinking a decaf coffee.
I drink decaf.
Duels.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right.
I do, but it's just
Do you smoke hemp as well?
No.
Hold on. How do they make decaf? It's got to be genetically modified in some way. No coffee comes out like.
No, I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
What do they do that?
I just grind it up and put water through it. That's what I do.
Is there organic decaf?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the bag says. I mean,
right.
I get it from the Whole Foods. Amazon wouldn't lie to me, right?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Anything you read on the internet is absolutely true. So
just because you're smoking hemp and it has a low THC doesn't mean that there aren't other cannabinoids that you're benefiting from.
Oh, it's
absolutely
totally healthy for you. I agree.
In fact,
other psychoactive benefits from it as well.
In fact, there could be some undiscovered molecule that we don't even know yet that is really the basis of if there's a euphoric feeling or whatever it may be that we.
Alan's on the hunt.
And there could be the THC could just be some nonsense
You know, Michael,
it could
I'd
be a
also,
hoax.
if
the
I...
THC hoax.
The THC hoax.
We're going to start it right here, Jim. The THC
Makes sense.
hoax.
Makes sense.
I'd also
There's
just like
THC 8. Isn't there in 7 and 5? Isn't there like
Delta 9.
Delta 7.
Delta
8?
Delta.
Delta
It's
8.
all fake.
None of them are controlled substances.
It's all false.
Delta 7. Delta 8.
It's a false
Delta
narrative.
8
Those should be
plus 2.
strains.
Anything
Those are
about
strain
THC
names, right?
is a false
Delta
narrative.
8, 7, and 6.
This is fake news.
So, listeners, if there are any special talents that you'd like to showcase,
I'm trademarking those, by the way. Don't steal those from me. Just kidding.
we would absolutely love to see your smiling face showcasing your talent.
Like juggling, for
potentially
instance?
juggling, comedy, magic tricks,
Bowling.
poetry, anything that you find that you can do that
Cooking.
maybe somebody else can't.
Can anyone on this Zoom call juggle? Please raise your hand.
Rubik's Cube in under 30 seconds solved. Things like that.
Yeah, anything.
Alan, can you juggle? You can? Of course you can.
Oh, here.
Because your days when you were in the circus. Just kidding.
He's in the circus. You can play the trumpet.
That is definitely a talent.
The reason why Alan doesn't play his trumpet is because his white gloves are in the washing machine right now. When they come out and are dried and ironed, he could probably play the trumpet, but I know that's one of his regiments before that. All right, have we had enough? Have we had enough? Let's call it.
Yeah.
Everyone good?
Good show. Good show, Michael.
All right. Alan, thank you. Jeff, love you, brother.
Out.
See, that's my vision.
Ellie,
next week.
see you tomorrow.
Amanda was supposed to catch on.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. I know. Talk to you tomorrow. I know.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, Al.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Sleep well. Bye, Layla.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Bye, Layla.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Hello and welcome to Planet Green Trees. I am Earl, the host of Cannabis Therapy Podcast. And I'm here to give some information about cannabis so that we can have a well-balanced understanding of cannabis. And today we're going to talk about how to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Yes, by the end of this episode, you should be able to identify if a plant is male and female, and why does it even matter, right? Cool. How to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Now, I am live from Komorn's office. If you hear Komorn's voice, it is because he is on a rant with a client, and that is okay. But we're going to push through this. Now, how to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Tommy, you can throw that first image up there. Thank you very much. Genetics. A cannabis plant, believe it or not, female plants and male plants have different genetics and different chromosomes. Males have an XY chromosome and females have an XX chromosome. Now, from naked eye, you can't really tell that, but just look eternally and understand there is a genetic difference between male and female plants. Now, you can really tell the difference between the plants by their genitals. Believe it or not, plants have genitals. And for males, it's more pistils, and for females, it's more stamen. And you can tell the difference. There's an image up there right now. You can see the pistils look a little different than what the female stamen looks like. And almost those pistils will eventually give you a sign as to how they are going to be a male. And I'm going to show you that picture pretty soon. But usually, you can't really tell the difference between a male or female until about at least 2 to 4 weeks into that plant's growth cycle. And sometimes you won't even tell the plant difference between male and female until about 2 weeks into the flower cycle. So just because you saw during the vegetative cycle, and that's the vegetative cycle, that's when it's just growing. It's not flowering, it's just growing tall. And depending if you're on the indoors, that means you're giving it at least 18 hours of light, okay? Up to 24 hours, because it's only 24 hours in a day. And then, at some point, you flip it to flowering, which is 12 hours of lightness, 12 hours of darkness. And you could have been vegging for 6 weeks, and it looks like it's still a female, but then 2 weeks into flower, bang, you find a male. And what do? We're going to talk about that soon. So, some other ways, we're going to put up another picture for me, Tommy, is how you can identify signs of a male plant. And the most common way of finding out if this plant is a male is by the pollen sacs. Yes, those pistils now turn into some kind of pollen sac. And literally it looks like little balls, like a plant has balls. And you can tell that those are there by looking right in between the pistils, or right at the point of the branches. You see little pistils, you also can see little ball sacs. And you look at that image, you can kind of see it right there too. Another sign said you do not sight it. Remember, I told you in 2 to 4 weeks of its growth cycle, you can tell if it's a male or female, but sometimes you can't really tell until it's in the flowering stage. But one of the signs you could tell is during the veg stage. If you don't see the pollen sacs, it's growing fast and it's growing taller than all of your other plants. Most males grow a lot taller and faster than females. So that's a sign to kind of like, let me watch this guy. Another one is it grows more straight. A lot of females tend to be a little bit more bushier. So if it's growing more straight up, taller, faster, another sign it could be a male. And then less flowers. Typically you can't tell that until it's in the flower stage, and if you're really seeing less flowers at that point, it's probably too late to take it out of your grow room, and you may as well just ride it out. And I'm gonna talk about later, well, it's okay. Male plants are okay. We as males should be accepted in society as plants. And then also tighter clusters. So you see a lot of male plants have a little bit tighter nodes. Females a little bit more spaced out, and male. So those are some signs that you can, and tricks that you can use to identify a male. And the reason why people or growers prefer females over male plants, well, females typically produce more THC. They're typically more potent. But typically, if you separate the females from the males, something called sensibililia happens, and the plants become more plumper, because the plants, if the females are getting plump, looking for pollen, it's not there, and they just keep getting more plump. And that gives you a higher yield. So that's a lot of the reasons why growers will separate females and males. And also, females have a natural higher cannabinoid and terpene profile. Cannabinoids, I talked about briefly. You can always go to our Cannabis Therapy podcast to look at other episodes that explain the endocannabinoid system and how it pairs with cannabinoids. But in a short sentence, cannabinoids are hundreds of different compounds, chemical compounds in the plant. There's over hundreds of different cannabinoids, such as THC is one of the most popular cannabinoids. CBD is a popular cannabinoid. THCA, CBN. So there's a lot of, and there's hundreds of those. And then there's also terpenes. Terpenes really give you the aroma, the smell of it as well. And tied in with some of the flavonoids, it can also give you certain tastes as well. But when you pair those cannabinoids with those terpenes, you get effects. Some can make you more sleepy, some can make you more calm, some can make you horny, whatever it is, all those chemical compounds, it's like an orchestra. All of it plays. It's not just the flute, not just the drums, it all plays like a symphony. So females have a higher concentration of a lot more cannabinoids and terpenes. And then also, they do not produce seeds. Typically, they do not produce seeds on the average unless they're stressed out. And seeds, which gets me to the point of it's okay to have some male plants, because seeds right now kind of, there's been a stigma that if cannabis had seeds, that it's kind of low quality cannabis. And that typically came from the history of, when it was in the early days of Prohibition, a lot of cannabis coming from Mexico or these areas where they kind of had brickweed, where it's just growing out in the wild. There's male and females that pollinate each other, and it's really kind of low quality weed put in bricks, sent over here, and people saw that association with, well, it had seeds, must be that brickweed. But you can grow high quality cannabis even though it does have seeds. Males, you can even hemp itself, go and craft hemp. males, you can still produce and give the same loving care as you would just females. And it will taste just the same, and it tastes just as good. So you don't have to just kill your whole crop. You can still ride that out, grow that, give the same love and care, and it still will be consumable. But the last thing is kind of like watermelon. If, say, genetic watermelon that was modified could produce no seeds, and then you have natural watermelon with seeds. Say it wasn't genetically modified, it was actually, there is male or there's female watermelons that doesn't have seeds, and there's male watermelons that do have seeds. End of the day, they both will taste like watermelon. And I get how having a male watermelon with seeds can get annoying, trying to spit out the seeds and picking them out. But at the end of the day, you still could enjoy the watermelon and get to the juiciness. Ha! Cool. So where to start if you're looking to grow? And say you do want female seeds. One of the ways is you want female plants, one of the ways is you can source auto-flowering seeds. And pretty much what an auto-flowering seed is that no matter what the life cycle is, within 8, 10, 11 weeks, this plant is going to flip into flower and be ripe and ready to harvest. But just because it's auto-flowering doesn't mean that it's not a male in there as well. So you still got to watch it. You still got to watch it for 2 to 4 weeks. Still got to watch it as it begins to auto-flower. But a lot of auto-flowering seeds have a higher percentage of being female. Another higher percentage of being female seed type or category is feminized seeds. Feminized seeds, if you recall what I said earlier, is that, females can produce seeds. What? Yes, females can produce seeds if you stress them out. And it could be because it was too hot, it was too cold, too much, it was too less of humidity, too much humidity, too much light. It's an art to growing, and if you don't keep that balance, that female plant could get stressed, overfeeding it, underfeeding it, the soil. So all these things, how much wind is blowing on it. So it could get stressed out, and it could produce seeds despite you not having any male plants in the garden. So when that female produces seeds, believe it or not, those are feminized seeds. And it is about a 90% chance that that seed from that female plant that was stressed out is also a female. So there's people who actually go into business and actually stress out plants on purpose to produce feminized seeds so that people will pay more for that higher guarantee that their seeds or plants will actually be females. So that's feminized seeds. But you still got to watch them. There's a 90% chance. So if you're really trying to keep them separate, you still want to watch them for at least 2 to 4 weeks into flower. And then the really sure way to understand if you're really trying to keep your males separate from your females and you really want just females for all the benefits we talked about earlier is cloning. If you cut a clone from a female plant, 100% of the time it is going to be also the same genetic of that clone that you make. Just as if you cut a clone of yourself, most likely if I cut a clone of Earl, that other person will look and act just like Earl. It would not be a female Earl unless this is a Star Wars movie and something happened where that happened. But this is not Star Wars, this is reality. We're in Detroit, Michigan. That does not happen yet. So that is how to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. I hope by listening to this, you got a well-balanced understanding of cannabis and cannabis products, and you learned something that you can spread. Please like and share the Planet Green Trees podcast with a friend, and also the Cannabis Therapy podcast. Check it out on YouTube, subscribe, like it, and even if you don't like that friend, send it to them also, because maybe they will start using cannabis and they become cooler. Who knows? Peace out.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.